Hey, what's going on, everyone? It is David Palmer, the Leo King, Lauren McDowell, and Brian Scarborough, Fixed Air Moon 4, Spiritual Daddy. We have an awesome episode tonight. But first, make sure that you check out HighVibe.tv, of course, to subscribe to get on our awesome app and network. We also have a new app update that's coming out where live chat, of course, will be involved, our community section, which is already on our website if you go to HighVibe.tv, but all incorporated in the app right now. Super excited about that, and make sure that you are a subscriber to get all the daily video horoscopes and all the other practitioners that are doing their weeklies, dailies, and all my special horoscopes, especially deep astrology, and even the exclusive show Full Disclosure that I do with Natalie is all on HighVibe. And we're really excited to have Lauren here tonight. We got all three of us here in the studio tonight.
Hi, guys.
What's going on? It's great to have some feminine energy on here tonight. Wouldn't you say, Brian?
It is nice. It's a good change up. I think this show just keeps evolving and changing, and it's about time. Like, we got a third person on set, especially since we redid this set.
Yeah.
Because that was the idea, was to have more people kind of on it. So this is dope. This is feels good.
Yeah, and it's great to have you on, Lauren.
I'm stoked.
Especially that you do so much with asteroids and astrology in general and other stuff. Why don't you just let people know what it is that you love so much about spirituality?
Well, I love it all. I mean, I love the polarity of all of it with astrology, and I do love to do all the esoteric asteroids, like anything Egyptian, Sphinx, Giza, Merlin, Aeropsyche, any of like the soulmate type of asteroids to do in synastry and all that kind of stuff. I don't know. I just love adding it all. I really like to, what was I saying earlier? The divine decoder. I love to, whether it's two people's charts or just one, and just kind of go and interlink, even past life stuff. You can really see that through the lens of astrology. If you're not able to tap into it, whether it's through a past life regression or whatnot, you can absolutely see that through astrology.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. I think it's awesome that, you go there, because I feel like what asteroids are doing, especially in these times, is they're helping us get a better sense of what's going on, because it's so intense. It reminds me of war, right? Battle of the gods. That's what we're going through.
Yes.
When you're dealing with these massive planets, and whether we're coming into an eclipse cycle here that's going to be not even pretty intense, really intense, that I feel like the asteroids are the energy that give us a lighter load or an understanding. They remind me of pages in many ways in the tarot that give us the information in the middle of these crazy battle of the gods, right? That are happening, and they can add so much. I mean, it's like ice cream.
Yeah.
They're the toppings, that are really good.
Yeah.
And without them, it could be kind of bland, just like 31 flavors of ice cream, okay, right? But I feel like the asteroids really are going to, my first job was at, what's that place called?
Coldstone.
Coldstone, yeah. I don't even remember it. Brian remembers it. But,
I used to love Coldstone.
It's mixing the different toppings on top, which I think is so important to help us all through this time, especially right now,
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. What is going on in this time?
Well, actually, what is going on?
It's a good thing to talk about.
Well, I mean, obviously the eclipses, Taurus, Scorpio. I feel like we were talking about this earlier, and I was trying to think, gosh, what in astrology would be I'm sure all of the nodes, whenever we go through them, they're all not easy, but Taurus and Scorpio to me would definitely be, it's light and dark. So you're either going to go higher or be pulled down. And if you're not going either, it's like purgatory in the middle. Mm-hmm. And then I was thinking, Virgo, Pisces would be interesting. And then when I thought about it, I'm like, it's all of the water earth ones that I think would be the most, because Cancer, Capricorn, we went through that. It was very emotional. And it's, what do you say that Cancer, it's do you want a blanket? And I want to be warm. And then Capricorn's you hurt your, on a hike, you tripped and fell and you need a Band-Aid or whatever, and like just get up there, you know. And then with Virgo and Pisces, it's like the heart and the head and like trying to like connect the two. So I just feel that especially with these, it's like we literally are like light and dark. And I mean, I hope that everybody decides to go this way, but you know, I feel like a lot of people are still in that purgatory that you talked about. I mean, was that even last year? It was longer. I'm like, what year are we even in? A year of balance. Is this going to be balanced?
I mean, it is true. I feel like there's a lot of questions to a lot of where is this all going, especially being in this nodal axis of Taurus Scorpio. They're extremes, but they are really about the spiritual life and the physical reality. I know we could say that about Virgo and Pisces, but the first two are Taurus Scorpio.
Right.
And in Vedic astrology, that's where it is. North Node Taurus, Rahu Taurus, Ketu Scorpio is literally about living your spiritual life and having the balance of also being willing to enjoy this physical realm, that there's a purpose for it. And I feel like the spiritual community gets a little too caught up in like being too spiritual without having the physical aspect of it too, and enjoying the fruits of it, that we're souls here to enjoy this life. It's not like came down here just to do work and fucking not do anything and not explore anything beautiful. Like, or have the sensations that we have, because that's actually what's the best part about spirituality. Like, I was just watching the movie Bedazzled. Do you remember that movie from 2000?
Isn't that Elizabeth Hurley?
Yeah,
Elizabeth Hurley.
Sure is.
Oh my God.
Yeah, sure is.
That's one hot devil.
Oh yeah, and this, you know, he gets 7 wishes and he makes this deal with the devil, right? To like have him, and one of them he wants to be super emotional. And so she makes him he wants to be the most sensitive, emotional man on the planet.
Yeah.
And he can't even look at the sunset without crying every time he's like, ah, yeah. And she dumps him because of that.
Pisces life.
I feel like that's kind of where the South Node Scorpio energy can get for people, of over attaching to the emotional. And you want to enjoy the physical part, but she's like, it's funny, then it's always the characters in that movie that work in the office that always mess with this stuff.
Right.
So one of them kicks sand in his mouth like 8 times and then takes her away and goes, hey, do you want to go get a beer? And she's like, oh yeah, let's go. And he's like, well, it's like 40 minutes away. She's like, great, where's your car? He's like, it's a van. You know, and she's like, even better, let's just roll. I feel like that's kind of like where the spiritual energy, if you get too caught up or too dark or too emotionally fixated on something, you lose.
Well, you said it's like a scab where you just keep picking it, and like you did whatever with Dylan on one of the why can't I think of what the show is called right now? Yeah, Before Dawn. And you were like, that's the problem, is that with Scorpio, it can become like where you're just constantly just like, you know, just sitting in it, like sitting in your pain, and you just keep picking it because you just like, and I was like, God, that is
it's
so
almost like you don't let
true.
it heal because you're like obsessed with the scab or the scar or the mark or the pain or the trauma instead of almost like
I mean,
going and focusing on something else that's beautiful instead of worrying about the little blemish and just, or whatever, you know, and scratching at it.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's definitely deep wounds.
It is. And I think that a lot of that does come towards the understanding that, you know, we are in a really kind of interesting time. Like, you know, to me, I feel, you know, where we're at, it's like when we talk about those deep wounds, I've been talking about this a lot, and this kind of introduces the asteroids that we can talk about with you. But of course, the main asteroid we use is Chiron, right? Mm-hmm. And so to see that Chiron has been in a quincunx to that south node in Scorpio, that's been the interesting element throughout this last 2 months of North Node Uranus. And, you know, again, all the planets are doing their thing in their major, and Saturn-Uranus square, and, you know, Jupiter-Venus opposition we just went through, and then freaking new moon opposed Jupiter, right? These are these huge moments, but in between all of them has been Chiron quincunxing the south node, where it's like, if you want to play little victim person, you'll get it.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know if you feel because of course we got the eclipses coming, we got this Sun-Venus inferior conjunction that's happening, and the combustion of Venus, including it's happening on an eclipse and the eclipse season. Are there other asteroids right now that you're paying attention to the most that you think could help people understand how to get through these times better and what to maybe focus on? And especially relationships are definitely a big part of this. North Node Uranus, Venus in the middle of a solar eclipse, Venus combust in Libra at the last degree square Pluto. Like, it's extreme.
I would say that, and I just noticed before we hopped on, and they're not exactly conjunct, but they are like traveling very close together, is Freya and Odin in Scorpio. And so, and I mean, that's a magical, divine, like, couple, but I mean, in its own way, Nordic, right? Yeah, it's Nordic. But I always Isis and Osiris, because that's like, literally healing, Egyptian, and she's the mother of magic. That is, honestly, they are a very Taurus Scorpio axis too. And right now they are on, Regulus, the royal star. So that's very potent. They actually are traveling very close together for a while. They start to break apart, but they're, I think, until like the 1st of November. Then they're obviously moving into Virgo, which then it's like Earth, right? Like grounding and
they'll be with Regulus too.
Yeah. I mean, I just think that's a big deal. It's like the royal star, and they're like, they are royalty, Egyptian royalty. But then Eros and Psyche are going to be conjunct in Libra. And this is going to be October 31st to November 4th. They will be exact at 25 degrees. That's a big deal. Eros and Psyche, and it's in Libra. So, I mean, partnerships. Obviously, I mean, Venus will obviously be already into Scorpio, but just like at the earliest degrees.
Do you know what degree they will be at when they meet? On the 31st?
They're going to be on the 31st. I believe that one of them is going to be like at 21 and then 23. So they're right there. But then on the 4th of November, it's like exact on the 4th at 25.
I think it's interesting that they're making aspects to Mars, which just went retrograde the day before.
Yeah. And so that's definitely, I mean, Eros and Psyche is definitely a fucking vibe.
Yeah.
That's
definitely like when you look up like asteroid love compatibility and like you're going that route. That's like what's your Eros and Psyche?
Yeah, and I've had that once with someone, and it is definitely, you can feel that.
It's very passionate, right?
Yes, and it's I mean, it is soul love, because Psyche was the one that had to trust.
Let's do up a little picture.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like,
I mean,
some
seriously.
people that are definitely, there's a lot of them, of course, just even in the old Greek mythology of it.
Yeah, no, and I mean, it's definitely, they are one of the sacred flame. That's what I like to call it. A divine union that took a lot though for them. They went through a lot until there was a lot of tests and Psyche was the one that had to trust, which you would think that it would be opposite, because Eros was like, the little Cupid flying around, kind of being a fuck boy, but he really was like dedicated to Psyche. And they lived happily ever after. But I was going to research and see when the last time they would have been conjunct, but I know that looking at all these asteroids that I do all the time, I know that this is like, it's rare. And that it's definitely the fact that they are going to be in Libra, which is about partnerships, but during Scorpio season, you know what I mean? That like adds more intensity. Like Venus is going to be in Scorpio. I think that Mercury will be in Scorpio by then, or maybe just like be coming in at the earliest degrees. I don't know. November's always a potent month. I mean, Scorpio season always is.
I thought we would take a look at like where we're at today real quick. So
yeah.
It's interesting that we've got Psyche here at 14 Libra, and then here's Eros literally at 29 Virgo tonight as we're talking, about to enter into Libra.
Right.
I mean, really fast.
He's
here.
going to catch up to her.
Yeah, like
Like
boom.
he's,
I mean, already on the
he's
5th tomorrow.
He's
her,
chasing her,
almost like that's
typical.
what I just got. It's like he's trying to catch up to her. And I mean, I just think that this is absolutely a year. I mean, it's 222. So I'm very into numerology, and that's synchronistic. And then 6, you know, which is Libra, balance.
Right.
But it is absolutely like, if you are in something that is not what you are meant to be in, I mean, these eclipses either would have ripped it away in May when all of that happened, or it will happen now, to like be able to have you go towards, you know, that sacred union.
I think it's interesting that I'm looking at, of course, tomorrow when we are going to see Eros in Libra, which will be on October 5th.
Oh yeah, look, it's right
But see,
there,
I
too.
put it with Aries rising so people can see at 0 Aries point that like it's all 7th house stuff. But what I also noticed is Psyche is in sextile with Sappho. in
Oh,
Leo.
yeah.
And there's that objectivity kind of point that Sappho looks for. Like it's like a point of object of desire that
Right.
it needs to do. And it's really focused on Psyche. And then it's also interesting that we're going to see this Sun and Venus that are going to be traveling through Libra together while Eros is going to catch up to Psyche.
Yeah.
So they're all 4 coming into this alignment together. So it's definitely
It's the portal. I mean, look at it right there. It's
Yeah.
it's like the alignment, and it's 7th house energy. So it's actually like you want a real partnership, you know, or you're desiring something real. It's 7th house. It's a level up from the 5th house.
Yeah, it's super faded with the North
Yeah.
Node in Taurus
Yeah.
too, with Uranus, of course, and being the dispositor of Venus. And that we're in a Saturn-Uranus square. So I think that kind of brings up the shattered reality stuff of what you just said. If it's really
Right.
not
Oh.
like the picture we just shown,
Right.
then what are you doing?
It's like in your classes when it's like they're being pulled
Right.
under. I mean, and you know, that's why I went back and was watching Hypergate today, because you were like, I'm going to tell you right now, the first things that go, it's Venus related stuff. And you were like, it's always that relationship that you have to jump off the cliff fully. And that's so true. I mean, I did that this year, and it's like, yeah.
Or the job, the money aspect. that
Right,
has to
absolutely.
change.
It's relationship. It's anything that's
Right.
Venus related. And you know, watching that when I was in my situation, I'm like, I don't really want to hear that, but I know that he's telling the truth. And then when I finally fully committed, because you were talking about fully committing to your spiritual path, and like that's what goes. You know what I mean? Because you had went through that
Right.
a long time ago. You're like, all this shit goes, and then you finally, you know, you just accept it and go.
Yeah, I feel like everybody kind of has to go through that,
Yes.
you know?
Yeah. Well,
But
yeah.
and it's hard with, you know, people, they get married or whatever and to their high school sweetheart or something like that. Because really, if you think about it, our relationships are here to reflect back at us so much.
Yeah.
But sometimes, you know, that reflection might not be the parts that we want, especially with the Scorpio solar eclipse conjunct Venus. The last one we saw was in 2014.
Yeah, that's
But that was with the
crazy.
North Node. There's a South Node one. So this one's definitely, oh, you have it, but are you sure? Whereas in 2014, it was like, oh, I want it, I don't have it.
Right.
Because especially South Node was in Taurus. So it's like all flipped. But it's very interesting to me to see that we're in, where if you think of Saturn square Uranus at the same time, it's whether or not it really is going to move forward for you correctly into actually building a better future for yourself. And that the timelines, the destined timelines are all, I mean, if we think the internet's crazy with how many wires there are, or, you know, that old TV in the back of somebody with the old sound system and all the wires all dusty is crazy.
Right.
This is crazier, you know? And I feel like that's how the asteroids help us, though. And especially Eros and Psyche, because there's, and I guess you could say Juno at the same time too.
Yeah, she's
Right.
in Pisces.
And she is in Pisces, which I think is
Which
interesting.
is, I mean, it would be, if Venus is exalted in Pisces, then Juno would definitely like to be in Pisces. I mean, that's like a positive.
Well, yeah, she's in her husband's home, right?
Yeah.
Jupiter's home,
Right.
And,
Yeah.
and Jupiter's coming back in to be like, don't worry, babe, I'm coming back home. Because, Jupiter this month, when you're saying at the end of October, that's when Jupiter's coming back into Pisces.
Yeah.
And there's Juno. So those two are coming together while at the same time.
Oh my gosh, you're right.
Those
I'm
two are
just
coming
noticing
together, right?
Yeah,
That's
it's like all
the
over
crazy
the
part.
place.
It's interesting too, because White Moon Selena will be with Juno at 6 degrees, and not many people talk about like White Moon Selena.
I
It's
know,
not an
and she is
asteroid,
very
but
important. But very,
it's important,
like a
and
higher self.
it is that like higher self, and that like sort of seeing through the illusions to get the actual real dream
Yeah.
of a relationship or a divine union right now. So I mean, there is a lot of that, like kind of all over the place.
Absolutely.
Like, relationships can be going into such like a beautiful light space and like a really real commitment to something real, or just the complete like
Or it's like
holding
so
on to something that's just absolutely
Right.
ready to be a cataclysmic event in people's lives.
that you're just holding on to and picking the
Yeah,
scab.
right.
Right. So, I mean, it really is like the divine writing is all over. It's like the exorcist throwing it up all over the wall. Like, you need to, really be in your, I mean, I just feel like a lot of that Saturn Capricorn though did, take away, it broke down. And then with the Cancer and Capricorn North Node and South Node, and like it did dissolve a lot of that stuff
Right.
away. But I mean, of course, right. Like you said, the concrete's drying. So I'm sure that there's still the ones that are like pulling.
Why am I still here?
Yeah. Yeah. And you can't, we're not here to save anybody. We're here to guide and to,
Right. That's what I think another part of this Saturn square Uranus is in a way too, is the liberation that Uranus brings from a lot of these commitments that we've made that actually aren't going into the future.
Right.
And it's like this Uranus North Node is like, are you really valuing life that's unique to you right now and
Right.
connecting with other people and other relationships and a world that fits into that? Or are you staying entrapped in something and not sort of breaking out? It's like this whole collective's going through like a Uranus opposition, and everybody's about ready to like get their divorce and buy a Harley.
Yes.
I
that's
need
a
to
really
live
good
for
way to put
myself.
it.
Like,
Yeah.
so we're kind of in that, sort of place too, where we do have to like really see ourselves in a beautiful light.
Yeah.
And learn to let go of the stuff that's suppressing that, so that we can find that like liberation into something that's really real and really
Our
beautiful.
own self-worth. I mean, that's Taurus,
Exactly.
and gosh, I feel like a Uranus opposition would be fun if you're single. Not if you're in a relationship. Not if you're in a relationship, but
From what I've seen, Uranus oppositions go pretty well for people that already liberated themselves.
Yeah, exactly. Go buy that Ferrari.
Right.
I don't know. I just did a reading for somebody today with going through that transit, and
Oh.
they definitely are looking for the right relationship, right? But
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, actually, it's about your career at the moment based off that person's
Right.
stuff, because you want to get there, not get
Yeah.
distracted maybe in a sense of that. And that's where it could be where if you're not finding that right now, I feel like it's like whatever is the object that is here to balance your life and bring you to your destiny, whether
Yeah.
it is career or whether it is especially stepping into this light work or stepping into your true calling, this is where it's like those pieces are coming together, like how we see in relationships or masculine, feminine, which is alchemy, right? It doesn't matter however you want to dice it or look at it. That's really, I think, what the beauty of this is through the chaos, because there's a shit ton of chaos.
Yes.
Which chaos I know is a point that we can look at, or catastrophe. We could look at that. But are there any asteroids that you look at that are like, if you're, especially this is spiritual daddy.
Okay. Yeah.
If you're looking at a guy and you're like looking at asteroids, what are the asteroids that you look at to be like, fuck this motherfucker?
Oh gosh,
Whoa.
that's a good one. Yeah. Gosh, what do I look at? That I would be like, no, thank you, sir.
Correct. Like, you know, like for me, like
I'll Zeus maybe.
I like human design. I'll be
think
like, eh.
That's funny you bring that up. I'm pretty sure Zeus is with that conjunction with Eros and Psyche in Libra at 23 degrees when they meet.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, Zeus. I mean, but Zeus is Jupiter. I would say, I mean, we could sit here and say Lucy. I did date somebody that had Lucy on their sun, and I was like, oh, well.
To be clear,
do
because
people know what
Lucifer.
Lucy is? Yeah. Yes.
Which, if people don't know what it looks like, right? This, I mean,
We all have it.
It looks pretty clear.
Yeah.
And right now it's sitting at 19 Sagittarius.
Oh my gosh.
Which it's actually getting close to Andrew Tate's Sun Uranus conjunction.
Oh. Yeah, so
there's
that'll.
going to be some
And
gnarly stuff coming up with him, I feel.
Oh,
Especially with Neptune squaring him. And Neptune's about to square Lucifer, which is interesting if you think about that going into this. Is it might look good with all these things, but you don't want to be, with somebody with the mask that looks too good to be true, or get caught up in your South Node Scorpio of the desire only and like not. And then honestly, it's like an agent pulling you away from your destiny.
Yeah. I think that's very Scorpionic because it's like because right now we're supposed to be feeling really powerful and beautiful and like capable within ourselves. And Scorpio's kind of, it's powerful, but it's almost like that desire that somebody else has something you need. So you want to merge with that so that you can get it too. So it's almost like seeing somebody be like, oh, well, I don't really have a good place to live right now like they do. Maybe if I just suck it up and be in a relationship with them, maybe they'll let me move in. Like maybe I can penetrate that place, for an example. But it's like the idea that you need someone else to make you powerful right now.
Right.
Or to make you more than what you are is, part of it too.
That's so crazy though that you like Lucifer is going to be squaring Neptune. So
Hidden.
it's like, yeah, that's
Although I think going to what Brian said, I think he's right. But I also feel Taurus and Uranus, it's like it's like World War II where you kind of do have to kind of find people. We all have our own kibbles to bring to the table. And I think it's got a test to pass because Brian's right. If somebody's intentionally doing it from that space,
that's not good.
Yeah,
no,
right.
I think people are an asset.
Yeah.
With Uranus and Taurus and Uranus in the North Node and Taurus, but it's not like putting yourself at a position of lack to get that connection. You know what I'm saying?
No, absolutely. I mean, that makes total sense in that men or women that are doing that.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because like, let's be honest, it's not just men. It's like women
there's
can
a
do
lot
this.
of men doing that.
There's a lot of men do that.
Well, yeah, no, for sure. Right. Like they're just positioning themselves and then, they're just going to be like, oh my gosh, I'm helping him out. I'm saving him. But I would say back to the asteroid thing, there's not actually, because I can look up all the dark asteroids. I would say it's more planets that I like. I'm like, where's their South Node? Where's their Saturn is a big one. Like, especially if it was in something to do with my chart. Of course, if I'm researching somebody's chart, I'm like, Saturn on my South Node? No fucking thank you.
Right.
Like, or yeah, I mean, it would really be like more Saturn. I don't know. I mean, Pluto, I don't really mind because it's like, that's transformation, right? So I kind of think that could be like a really good challenge, but I mean, I don't, not if it's in square to
It's
everything.
like, joke's on you. I'm into that shit.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, but there is that, I can't pronounce it, the Nessus or whatever. Is
Nessus?
that the Nessus?
I call it Nessus.
It's like an abusive asteroid or whatever. And I guess that can kind of play out in whatever way, but I've had people that have had that like on my midheaven and that's never worked out good. So I would say maybe that one, because that can manifest in a bunch of different ways, whether it's like, actual physical or just like verbal, you know what I mean? But I would say I
That's
only...
Nemesis or Nessus?
Nessus.
Yes.
That's kind of like
Okay, so it's Nessus.
I feel like whenever I've looked at that, it definitely comes across as like the sort of almost narcissistic place in our chart.
Very much so.
Yeah.
And I mean, that shit's been in Pisces since 2008, fucking up all my shit. Can't wait till he gets out. It's not going to be till like 2030.
I thought I would have fun and see where it's at right now.
Yeah.
Right? So
Yes.
I just threw it in, and it's
like,
at
where is he?
14 Pisces with Juno.
On my Venus. Oh, yay. Yeah, because he's there for a long... I mean, it's been since 2008.
You know, I've never ran it before, so I just want to see what it says here.
Yeah.
The centaur who sought revenge on Hercules, having to face deep pain and make choices as a result of, or while under the influence of this pain. What one thinks is the monster within, and what one does because of it.
And in the 12th house. Yeah. I mean, it's small but mighty. Like, it definitely can have...
That sounds like so funny in there. That's like sounds like some excuse of some chick with some dudes not working out. Like,
small but
it's
mighty.
small but it's mighty.
Well, that could be it too.
That's interesting.
That's why it's kind of like you got to get in there in the first couple of days.
Yeah, this
to find
terminology
out.
says it symbolizes abuse, manipulation, excessive lust.
Yeah.
Are we on you?
Oh, yeah, I'm just looking
yeah,
at
no.
I was just looking at a few because I haven't looked at Nessus in a couple years now. But it's a fact that cannot be denied is this associated with these qualities, and it's similar is the fact that Nessus is much more than this. It will be unreasonable to relate Nessus solely with these qualities. What does that mean? I don't know.
So, I mean, I would say that if that is hitting some, like, whoever, family, friends, even lovers, obviously, if it's like in a close conjunction to like a planet, yeah, I feel like you would absolutely feel that.
I want to see where it's at in my chart.
Yeah.
Yeah, me
I've
too.
never read that.
I don't know if I've ever.
Mine's conjunct my Venus.
Oh, no.
Oh, it's in
Everything's
Leo.
conjunct my fucking
Yeah, you have a
Venus.
lot of
Right, you
asteroids
do.
in Leo.
So I can balance it out.
Yeah.
I've never abused anybody though.
No.
Man, my Venus is stacked now.
Yeah, look at all that shit in Leo. It's all there.
Man. It's pretty gnarly.
Because you have Isis, Juno, Vesta.
Oh.
And it's all on your Venus. So, I mean, literally, like, these divine feminine, like, these priestesses are guiding you, like, you in love. So at least
In the
you
12.
have that. Yeah. I mean, right. It's like a dream.
Actually,
It's
yeah.
past life. It's like, I mean, you've said that before. It's like, it's definitely past life stuff, right? But past life, I think that people look at that too as like, oh, well, then you can't like be in it. It's like, no, that doesn't mean it's like a starting point, right? It's like you're reuniting with somebody from the past.
You know, to be honest with you, I can see where that can come from the Astro Gold version of it. Of like, if I feel betrayed with my Venus square Saturn,
Oh, that's right. I've heard. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Or especially because I have North Node Chiron and Moon. Like if I feel like I give everything in my heart and my soul, and then it's just like, yeah, whatever.
Right.
Then that's where I deal with like, holy shit, how am I going to get this energy and how am I going to like put it out? And that's why I jet ski race, or that's why I race cars, or that's why I listen to metal, or that's why I like it's my soothing grace is that monster that I like push the gas pedal more, or I fucking scream louder in a fucking track, or I DJ it out, or I, you know.
Right, but you have multiple ways to release it. Whereas, like, if somebody had all that in the 12th and didn't, I mean, it would pull them down.
That's
so at
crazy.
least,
See, I just learned something new tonight.
oh, we like that. He's got, where's your Nisusi?
It's
What
at
do you
4
think?
Libra.
Oh, wow.
It's in a
You got a lot
T-square
of
with
Libra
my
asteroids.
Uranus and my Jupiter.
Let's take a look at that.
Oh, I can't for whatever reason, my Astro Gold, I haven't been using it much. I've been on Solar Fire since I got a PC. It won't let me put new points up right now. I've been trying to mess with it for a while.
Oh, you just go into settings and you add points.
Extra points. I have all of, I was going to add all of the asteroids I could. And it doesn't.
And they have Cupid, but that's like the same as Eros, they say.
So, I don't know.
Yeah, I know it's different.
I mean, look at Nemesis. I mean, that can't be good, right? That cannot be a...
See, I really never knew that there was as many dark Like, I mean, what do you feel about... There's 3 Liliths, right? So there's Black Moon Lilith. There's Lilith.
Right.
Oh gosh, I forgot the number. And then, of course,
True. And
right.
But then, there is a third, but I'm like, wait, why does there have to be so many Liliths? Like, it's like True and Black Moon. And I mean, I love a Lilith vibration. You know what I mean? Mine's...
You're talking about more Dark Moon Lilith?
Yeah, Black Moon Lilith. I mean, I guess just the vibration of a true Lilith. I mean, like we were talking about this earlier. It's like if your true Lilith is on Algol,
right?
I mean, is it going to matter if it's good or not? Like, it's like, what is that vibration going to play out as? You know? But I just feel like, I mean, Lilith to me is kind of like a Mars. I mean, it's just like a liberator. She's not gonna, just stay on top or whatever it is that, I mean, because people are like, oh, do you do Adam and Eve? And it's like, yeah, I mean, of course that would be like, that is a divine couple, but I guess maybe because of like the story, I don't like go into that so much. I have seen a lot of people that have like Adam and Eve like in synastry, and then the girl has Lilith conjunct Eve, and then with the guy's Adam, and it's like, oh, that's something's not going to be right there.
Interesting.
What do you feel about with Lilith that's been going between, of course, it was forever, right? Mm-hmm. It was forever in Taurus, Gemini last year, and even in 2020, there was so much of that, right? Like it was like there was just nonstop. It was just like, okay, and then we had the eclipses with it, and then last year it was just nonstop, like Gemini, and then we saw some Cancer, and then it went pretty quick through Cancer, and now it's been in Leo.
Jumps around a lot.
But it's been now doing the Cancer Leo thing,
yes,
which I feel like has been a little bit better than.
Oh, I would agree with that. Lilith and Taurus, I feel like I know a few individuals that have men that have Lilith and Taurus, and it is indulgent and very almost kind of like a Scorpio vibration, but maybe where you wouldn't feel it right away because it's very charming, but it's very cunning. And so it's, because, there's like a light and a dark to every sign. And it's like Taurus can become very indulgent, you know what I mean? And excess and all of that. But I do love Lilith. Like, I think that if, you don't have Lilith meltdowns and, which I'm sure that's happening right now in a lot of people's relationships. And Lilith and Cancer, I don't know. Yeah, that would be like, that could be very, emotional if it's not received in the right way, right? Because like Cancer needs to feel comfortable.
Emotionally manipulative.
Yes. That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
I just thought I'd run the chart for January 12th of 2020 to see where some of the stuff is we were talking about. And what I got was that Lilith was conjunct Psyche on the big Saturn-Pluto conjunction.
Oh, yeah.
With Mercury, right? Nemesis was with Psyche and Lilith.
Oh, God.
Right?
Look at all that Capricorn.
It was interesting that Lucy was at 28 Gemini, but that was trine Venus. And that was also in, Isis was in Scorpio. Juno was in Libra in square to the big sun, Saturn, Pluto, Mercury. Ceres square. It almost kind of felt like coming into this, like, that's the event that changed everything, right?
Yes.
That's like the atom bomb that happened. And so I feel
Yes.
like
It was
going
Pandora's
forward
box.
for the rest of our lives, especially until the Saturn Pluto that comes in Pisces in the 2030s, I feel like there is this feeling that people in their destinies are really looking for that Juno, and really looking for that, I don't know, like, I guess looking for Psyche in a way. I mean, Psyche here is the daughter-in-law of Venus in love with Eros, symbol of what is eternal, immortal, vulnerability. And that makes more sense to me in Pisces. Like, people are more attracted now to vulnerability than they are looking cool, or what job you have, or how many followers that you have. And I feel like that's been the coolest part of this last almost 3 years, which is kind of crazy, is that I feel like the more people are trying to flex, especially whether it's in these Capricorn placements of, how much I achieve, or how much I am on top of the caste system of our social fabric, that it's almost like that's a very quick way, especially with Venus that was in Aquarius at 28 degrees, kind of like, yeah, bye.
Right.
That's not really connecting to people. And I feel like, especially the moon that was in Leo that day, which was really interesting, I remember, because I also feel that there is this feeling of happiness and love that gets us through this 30-year, or sorry, this, next, well, sorry, it wasn't the 30s, it's 30-year transit. So I'm thinking, I'm like way off already. It's in the 50s, right? 2050s. So, I feel like this is where it's like people have to remember that it is happiness and it is love, but a love that's not trying to maybe flex so much. I that's the way that I would maybe put it.
I think it's a love that's not built on these illusions of society that we were kind of brought up in.
Yeah.
Like what got us to this point, and all these different ways to look at what it takes to make it in this reality. None of that shit matters anymore. It's like a different skill set now that I think people are attracted to.
Right.
And I think that's about the nodal axis too, because I mean, we just came out of a very mental, cerebral axis with Gemini, Sagittarius, and now we're in like the super, like, it's one of the most intense feeling transits of like Scorpio, Taurus, because Taurus is very, feeling oriented too.
It wants it.
Like it's touch, taste, smell. Like, I mean, those are sensations, feelings, all that.
I mean, if you think so, I'm going to put up the solar eclipse chart.
And you had on that, the 2020, the big, I mean, you did in December of 2019, you were talking a lot about this through all out that, but you did a live on your Instagram and you were playing that like Sam Hunt thing, and you had your magazine out, and you're like, people, I told you, and you're like, yeah, you think that it's supposed to look like, if it doesn't look like this, and it looked like an Eros and Psyche, you're like, then, I mean, you said a lot of funny things, but you're like, you're fucked. Like, you just, like, if it doesn't look like this, I mean, you're lost.
Yeah, and that was based off Saturn, Pluto, and Libra, and then it moving into Capricorn, and then it was also at the same time, there was in 2019, and I did a special, it was called The Burning of Venus, I called it. And it's weird that we're seeing this happen again. Yeah. Right? But there was a lot of, in the beginnings of the end of summer into fall, like we're in right now, there was these major transits that were happening, and the Saturn Pluto about to turn direct, how we're about to see now. And that was the, approaching. Now we're in the separating. So we're on the other side of that. And that's where this is formulating, I guess you could say, more so on the other side. So if you think of the last 3 years, like, what the heck was that? But if anything, it was the destined alignment to get us out of the shit show that has been relationships since 82 and 83.
Absolutely. Yeah. 100%. And I mean, and maybe everybody, I mean, most people that I'm sure that are watching here and that, you know, are part of HighVibe and that follow you and like just the spiritual community, it's like, of course you are wanting that soul, you know, connection. Now, are most people, you know, are they really doing the work to attract that? You know what I mean? So it's like, it's not just going to come to you. I mean, you have to, two people have to be in alignment
That's
to come
probably the
together.
biggest thing with all that Capricorn, right?
Right.
Like,
Right.
are the two people really doing that deep destiny,
Yeah,
purpose, what you even came here for work?
absolutely.
Or is it all built around the illusions that have been shattered?
100%.
Yeah, and I feel that that's where it's getting, I think, lighter for people who finally have accepted that. I mean, it's like we went through a fucking crazy computer program of how we think relationships should be. I always call it the big book in the sky of how relationships should look, and how much the shows The Bachelor, The Bachelorette, or even, I mean, I was on a bunch of dating shows like Next and Parental Control and stuff,
Right.
the MTV days, or even then if you go prior to that, the magazines or the newspaper ads that you would do for dating, or like people just like really trying all these different ways. Or if you think of open relationship trials, or like there's been every kind of relationship you could have wanted, you could have tried. But it feels like now that's just not the way it is, because it was like you want to follow the natural way or not kind of energy.
And you said it was because of all that Scorpio shit, you know what I mean? And that then nothing really major was going to come through Scorpio. I mean, obviously we're in these times, but you meant like with Venus and all that. So it was like, everybody kind of just wanted to go and taste every color of the rainbow, or try to, it was more about like just wanting it and needing it, but not really connecting with it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Whereas like, then when Saturn came around in Capricorn, I mean, I saw so many because it wasn't in alignment. It wasn't meant to, you know, so it was like the clear out before.
Yeah, and I feel that alignment was like a lot more of like, oh, we're really not on the same ship.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, like, you know, like maybe you are doing the spiritual work, but you don't believe in like maybe a collective like light work, or, you know, like, and that could be a totally different ship, you know? And I feel like that, or I work a job and I'm trying to do spirituality, you know, and it's just like, wait, what? Like, you know, like, how's that working out?
Yeah.
Like, that's been the hard part, which Saturn and Pluto still haven't separated 30 degrees. And that's what finally them both coming direct here in October is about, is this is going to be the biggest life-changing aspect we've seen since 82 and 83. Yeah. Because that's how powerful Saturn Pluto transits are, and they are extreme. And the fact that they've been within 30 degree orb, not just 2022, not just 2021, not just 2020, not just 2019, but even 2018. Mm-hmm. So if you really take, that's what my Rising Through the Darkness back secret is too. Yeah. Which is, you know, we're all going to rise through this darkness, but boy, is there going to be some sediment of darkness. Oh yeah. I think, you know,
I think that's like a good way to like get people prepared, is that like that chart we just looked at, January 12th, 2020, that is not a one-time deal. Right. That's a very long planetary cycle, and we're still not even 30 degrees separation from the conjunction. We haven't even had its first major aspect of like a 60-degree sextile, right? Or even a 45-degree semi-square. Yeah. So like it's still like, it's still so new and fresh, and that's how potent that is that it's a long way to go, and it was in Capricorn, so it's gonna feel steeper than ever up the mountain. Oh, absolutely. But I think that's work, great. Though. That's right. What we came here for, and that's what we're here to kind of be a wrecking ball of change for on this planet. Yeah. Through the society structures and
And aligning just with the right people, like your soul families, your tribes, like it's, you know, whether it's a romantic partnership or not, it's like just aligning yourself around people that you resonate with. You know what I mean? That you can be yourself, that you're like, okay. I mean, you guys always talk about how you need to like be around people that, you know what I mean? Like you can rely on and stuff like that. And so that even too is just so important, you know?
I was looking at this chart again, and I was thinking of, holy shit. Not only is Mars and Sag squaring over to Lilith and Psyche, so I feel like it's, and I know this might sound very Capricornian for the transit, but it is. It's almost like if you're leading through sex, it's not going to work.
Right.
And then 2 was that, of course, it was South Node Jupiter in Capricorn at its fall position. And I feel like that's where people, the idea and the belief systems of the structures, and like Brian said it best, like the social element too, but it's like the structures that hold the social fabrics together are all coming down, right? And there is that, I mean, I have Jupiter Capricorn. I know it's the worst place for Jupiter. And it really is, I call it the one big wish, where everybody else in their life gets, it's like Santa Claus is giving so many little gifts, and oh, you want stockings, and oh, you know, Jupiter Capricorn people, it's like you get coal, but
That's
because you get so much fucking coal, the ultimate wish you want, you will get, but you have to see the whole like goal.
You have to like know the plan.
Yeah.
Believe the plan.
Right.
And go for the plan and
got,
execute the plan, and you'll get it.
And if you got that shit, you'll get it. But that's it.
Right.
And that's what I've noticed in my own life. It's been hell. And, you know, even in ancient astrology, they say with Jupiter Capricorn, it's not even until you reach your second Jupiter return at 24 when things start to get lighter. It's at the one at 36 when finally you recognize. And that's what's weird is that's what happened in my life. Like, you know, I remember at 12 years old just being like, my parents just got divorced. Like, I have a crush on girls at school. Oh, they don't think I'm cute. They think I'm like whatever. And then it's like 24 years old. It's like, okay, got some notoriety, got some fame, reality TV, but I'm broke and I want to do this whole spiritual thing and I'm going to go for it. But it wasn't until that transit, I had my Jupiter return like weeks before that, was like, holy shit, I'm finally like here. So it's the patience of the expansion in the South Node there. I think that people have to get out. That's been the hard point. I've been making a lot of points over the last 3 years of Jupiter has not been felt much.
Absolutely not.
And even though, it's in its home sign of Pisces this year with Neptune, and it's been to the 0 point of Aries, I feel that Neptune actually is overriding even the feeling of Jupiter there. And then Jupiter, of course, is in conjunction with Saturn, right, in Aquarius, and it had to square Uranus. So it's like Jupiter hasn't had a good day.
Oh, 2019 was the best, Jupiter and Sag. And it was like, even if 2019 wasn't, a lot of people are like, God, that wasn't a good year. I'm like, well, it was for that Jupiter and Sag. I don't know. That was a vibe. For me, at least, but it's like, because it was in its home sign, it was fire. You know what I mean? It was like fire energy. Like, that's why I was even excited about Jupiter and Aries. It was like giving you just that push, right? To like, I mean, Jupiter and Sag, sure, you can get lost, but it was like there was some excitement. And there has not been, it has been
deflated.
Flat. Like you were out in, I don't know, Joshua Tree, and there's no trees, and it's just like, I don't know, the desert.
That's part of the Jupiter-Pluto cycle we're in too in Capricorn. Like, we're in so many Capricorn cycles, and even the Saturn-Jupiter 0 Aquarius, like the Jupiter phasal relationship cycles we're in right now, they're not like fun. Like they're Saturn, it's Saturn's world.
I mean, it's been the craziest shit. Like, I've never, ever felt, I mean, you said we've never felt this energy in our life. And it's like, when is this going to be? Like, you can, well, I don't know if you can kind of feel it, like maybe shifting, but it's just like, damn, what happened to you always say the Jupiter or Saturn and Leo days? It's like, it's like there's been
the Saturn Leo days,
we've just been like so I mean, it's been the best growth, but it's
that was
just
also
been
square
hard.
Jupiter and Scorpio, but there is that edge and passion that people want, but it's far away.
Yeah. This has been the toughest shit of our
And if I were to
lives.
be honest about when it's about that lesson with Saturn Jupiter that's going to last until the next Saturn Pluto, which is fucking 33 years, well now about 30 years away. It's getting out of the Jupiterian life. It's the end of the age of Pisces, which Jupiter ruled. It's also at the same time, that's the problem with age of Pisces, is the gluttony, the overexpansion, the wanting of so many things, and the excess, the experiential energies are too high. There's boundaries that Jupiter has to learn in Pisces.
Yeah.
Right? Like Neptune can do the boundless because it's eternal spiritual, where Jupiter has a belief or a construct. I read somebody in the chat, it's like the number one, like best thing or blessing is health. And, I mean, I don't know if I would say that. I would say it's soul. But I would say that, the problem with Jupiter South Node is look at the belief systems.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to just say it as I've said it for a long time, that I feel that what the pandemic was all a mind control thing, that people created it. And that's hard, but it the more that you look at placebo effects, or the more that you look at, right, like how better else do you get a whole world telling you this is what it is and showing you a 3D fucking vector image of this weird little fucking spike thing that looks like something that they dropped a bomb in, or like a blowfish that went bad in the ocean or something. and people just freaking out about it and manifesting it in the beliefs constructs and the systems, and using the systems to hold them up with a fake illusionary economy that was already in a depression in 2008 that was saved through bailing banks out and doing crazy quantitative easing and doing all these things that they needed another patch to the system to keep it up. And honestly, what better way than to, whether it was done in a lab or not, I mean, that's definitely possible. But if anything, it would be that what's in the shot that was done in a lab that actually was injected into people, that if you really wanted to get it that way, but you had to get people enough to believe it for a year to get to that place.
Yeah.
Because if you notice, it was all different, quote unquote, symptoms after 2020, right? Like there was a weird thing, and it was also the Saturn Pluto, where I was like, anybody who doesn't want to be here, they're gone.
Right.
Right. And I don't want to sound like a piece of shit, but I looked at the pictures, whether it was on television or whatever, and I would tap in spiritually and be like, when you see a picture before somebody dies, like they'll post it on Facebook, like I was just with them. There's the death look.
Yeah.
So like when you see the pictures of the people, like, oh, this was him last week, this was her last week, I always looked and I went, it's a blank stare. You're like, God's already checking you out, like at a hotel, like the bellman's already showing up, like the door's already opening up. They're doing it. What are we taking back to heaven with you? And there's that kind of, holy shit, this is going down. And I think that's going to be the hardest part for people through these times, is constantly looking for Santa Claus, constantly looking for an angel, or constantly looking for some benefic thing, that the benefic energy is within yourself, and knowing how to, especially in Capricorn, like knowing how to own your own divine destiny that you already were given, and believing in that, and not even paying attention to what is false, because it's not part of your code and it's not part of your predetermined alignment that you can feel. And that's the only way Jupiter and Capricorn works, is you have to find that within yourself, know that destiny, and go towards that. And the destiny for all of us was not by God written, oh, you're going to go through this really weird
Yeah.
thing where there's no origin of it, and there's no, and you're going to have to take a new technology with no shit, and you're going to have to wear a mask everywhere you go, and that was not in our contracts.
No.
That was just a test to see if people would listen.
A
Or,
lot of them did.
I know, but that's what that was.
No,
the whole
absolutely.
thing was just to see. You think they'll listen to this? I think they'll listen to this. They'll buy it.
Yeah.
And they tested it, and they weren't wrong. The majority bought it.
Well, right. And then look at, like, you know, you can see it playing out in this whole celebrity thing. You guys have already talked about that with Ashton Kutcher and Justin Bieber and all these people that are healthy that are now not.
Yeah, it's happening.
Which is
left
actually really
and right.
sad.
It is
Very,
sad.
very much so. But
I know I was actually looking because we just had Mercury retrograde on Fortuna. And on January 12th, it was Icarus conjunct Fortuna, which reminds me of the shot. Like, let's just take a wheel of fortune and put on some fabricated wings, right? The fathers of the shot, right? Putting on Icarus, the mechanical wings, and you can fly to the sun. And throwing a wheel of fortune in Capricorn with it. Like, really? Right? If you think about that, like, anything that right now is like, Elon Musk just released his whole AI robots this weekend.
oh,
Right? Yeah, they're creepy. Like this, that's the whole thing of Icarus. I love Icarus. That Icarus I use a lot because I feel very connected to it, where I could feel like it's like how Red Bull, right, gives you wings. But they're really not wings, right? It's just like a lot of taurine and caffeine for fucking a couple hours, and then it's like
You crash.
boom, and then you crash.
Yeah.
And to see the pictures of Icarus falling from
yeah.
the sun, like burning and dies to his death. Like the idea that he can be like as powerful and go to the sun, no, he can't. And with Fortuna there, just like this random wheel of fortune of control, like I feel like I have control of the wheel, and these mechanical devices or these things that are going to be systematically controlled on people and make them believe, because Jupiter was also with Icarus during that time. So if you think about it, anybody who believes they could just create their own destiny that's not in alignment with their soul contract or the divine is going down. No matter what's happening.
Right. Or that randomly their twin flame is just going to come into alignment with them.
What do you think about that?
That's the hope.
Because Brian and I have talked about that a lot.
Yeah. I mean, I hate that this term has gone so mainstream, because I always say, do you think that these sacred, it's like the red string of fate is how I see it. It's like fate and destiny is real. But I saw this really good quote the other day that it was like, fate is a loaded barrel in the holder's sight. So it's like fate might not be your destiny, but it might be taking you somewhere that, like, I believe that these sacred connections, that they do put you on a path, and that we get so in our head because we're attached to this label is really what it is. And it's like, you don't need to search for it anywhere, because like Isis and Osiris weren't like, we're twin flames, and
right.
Eros and Say, like nobody was running around claiming a title. It was just like, you just knew it's alchemical, it's transcendental. It puts you on a path, whether you're going to be with this individual or not, because that's the illusion. Because if you are meant to be with somebody, no matter, time, space, person, place, or thing, it's like, you'll come, back together. It's like, I love using, I don't really, if we wanted to say like in this 3D world, like Jennifer Lopez and Ben Affleck, but like I feel like if we're going to talk about a sacred connection, I'm like June Carter and Johnny Cash, like that guy, you know what I mean? And like they didn't come together until 14 years after they had like they were on a crazy sacred journey, but it took a long time to get there. And then when she died, he died like 4 months later. Like
It's like The Notebook.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, there was probably a little, 50 Shades in there, maybe. Johnny was
to sell amphetamine.
He was a big 12th houser.
Oh yeah, in Tennessee, whenever I go to Tennessee, whenever I'm in Nashville, I always go to the Johnny Cash Museum, and I always look at, before he got big, he was like selling amphetamines.
Oh,
and got in trouble for that. Yeah. And back then, that was right when they started. He probably was selling them to Hitler. But like, it's
Well, I mean, he had to go through all that, right? And she was like his earth angel that was like, yeah, I'm going to hold space for you, but by no means am I going to fucking stand here and be like, you're my twin flame. I'm waiting over here and just going to be like, I'll just be like, that's what I hate about this whole, it like gives you this false sense of hope that you need like the runner and the chaser and the this and the that, and that you're just going to be like sitting and waiting for, it's like, no, you need to be doing, it's spiritual.
While they're fucking someone else.
Yeah, it's an ascension.
And don't even know who you are.
It's literally a spiritual awakening and ascension. Like it's not, it's a mission, right? Like, right. I mean, it's a mission that you're both that you both are on your own paths, working and doing your own work on yourselves, and maybe one person is, trying to do that work, like not fully leaped off the cliff yet, and they're, whatever, seeking other stuff. But then, I don't know, they are like, wait a minute, and you come together, and then, you have to be in alignment. So it's just, it's become so Neptune. It's become so fantasy. You know what I mean? That people just get, sacred connections are absolutely real. And, that's why I always say it's like the 144 is a real thing. And so, the people that are doing that work will come together.
Yeah. And I feel like Gemini is a mutable sign, probably the most mutable because they're, and I feel like people who get locked into the twin thing, it almost is like, that means you're going to have a lot of twins.
Right.
Right. Because it's always like, well, that was my false twin.
That's a karmic connection.
It's a karmic connection now. And that's a this and that's a that.
Right.
And that's just very Gemini to me, where it's just constantly, even though the Lover's card is Gemini.
Yeah.
I do feel like it's one where it has a hermetic understanding.
Right.
Which that's something that isn't about running and chasing.
I was going to say something similar, is that it's like if you're just on this pursuit and all you're thinking about is a twin flame, and that's like this big desire and this need, and I have to have this twin flame come into my life, you're probably not going to get your twin flame. Like, I think it comes back to, like you said, like doing the work, putting in that work on yourself, doing what you're here to do. And as a reward, like for doing the work and being on your mission and becoming stronger within yourself as a person, that's when you get the divine union, because they've done the work and they're back on their mission and you're on yours, and it comes together and it like aligns, and then you just know it aligns.
Absolutely. And I mean, astrology plays so much into this because it doesn't lie. And it's like the vertex is very important, because whenever there's that is like fate, it's like dropping, and I would say with a sacred connection, it's not really something you seek. It could be something that within you you're manifesting and you can attract that energy. But then there are these moments when you just meet these people or a person, and it's like, whoa, like, and it puts you on a path and it changes your life. And so many soulmates and all of this that gets you to that leads you to this person. And the vertex is a point of fate, but it's also karmic. But it's like, karma doesn't have to be bad. It's a starting point. Two people coming back together to, you know what I mean?
It's the
unfinished
opening
business.
Doors, right? And closing of doors, and people coming in and people coming out.
Absolutely.
And then there's the anti-vertex that's always opposed that.
Right.
And I feel like that those points, especially when you're in your own chart and you have, like when I had Pluto conjunct my vertex, holy shit, that's when all this popped for me in my fifth. So you think, oh, it would have been love or something, but it was more like, no, my creativity and my passions.
Right.
Like I remember that was a turning point. That's what it's called, is the turning point.
Absolutely.
And those are interesting places in relationships where you think, this might be my turning point, but it also might be your U-turn.
Yeah.
Like, you know, wait, hold on, that's a U-turn actually. Like, oh, this looks, oh, whoop, beep, beep, beep.
The vertex is such an interesting point.
Yes.
Like you think it could be one thing, but it's always like, it's very Uranian and very Plutonian to me.
And Neptune. Like it can be all three.
Yeah, it's just like, this is what was actually meant to happen and it's happening.
Well, I do believe it's always, a lesson, and it can feel
but it might not be what you kind of idolized it to be. Or if you have like a person and you're like, oh, my solar arc Venus is on your vertex. We're soulmates. Like, maybe.
Right. Exactly.
Hard maybe. You know, came together for a reason at that time, but it might not be the reason you think. You know.
Yeah, and I mean, and again, it's like words. I always tell people or clients, I'm like, you have to be discerning of, what you feel within yourself, the energy, because energy and action doesn't lie, but words do. So it's like, you can't go, like if somebody's just constantly, spitting this lyrical rap to you, but there's nothing to back it up. It's like, okay, well, yes, then you got to keep it moving. Oh, I did want to say this before I forget, and if maybe we can look at it or not, because you guys brought up a while back, March of 2023. And I did notice that Atlantis and Juno and the North Node will all be conjunct in Taurus. I think it's like around the 18th. So that's definitely a point of activation.
Probably around the first degree.
It's going to be like, I think it's at like 5. Yeah. So that's a very interesting alignment.
That is.
For Juno, North Node, and Atlantis.
March
that's
is
like
a very interesting month.
Yeah, so that's why I was like, I remember.
Yeah, I want to get there. I wanted to go into the solar eclipse because this is about the fall, and we can build it to there.
The fall.
But I feel, and this is what's interesting is, especially when you brought up the Eros Psyche, they're almost together, and Mercury's going to pass them in Libra, just days before, while Sun Venus will be combusting. Right. So there is like a sign coming, and Mercury's catching back up to Fortuna where the retrograde happened on. So there's this whole month of October literally is, and I know for some people, you got to play the whole month out and see how this whole game's going to play out.
Yeah.
But they are coming close together. And then of course, this is where Jupiter is finally going to come back, right? It'll be at 15 minutes right here, and it's going to come back into Pisces right after that. And then we have that Mars retrograde that's getting all fired up or de-fired up, right? Ready to go. Look at how Lilith comes back to Cancer and almost coming back into, it might even go back into Gemini that day. But that solar eclipse at the exact moment is dead conjunct Venus in its fall position, or its detriment, and it is a fall moon, and it's with the South Node. This one to me is... If there was the breaking of illusions of twins or something that were false or something, or just the ideas of that, that's the problem with the twin flame thing. Reminds me of Venus Scorpio.
Yes.
Right? Like the obsessive.
Yes.
Can't have it. It's ownership over somebody else. You're my twin.
Right.
That's without having the Venus Taurus. Right? Like Venus Taurus doesn't own people. Venus Taurus is like, I know what I like, and I like you because you're great and you're beautiful and you're this, not because of this emotional, like, that's where Venus and Scorpio is a problem, is it's an emotional attaching place off of things that are darker shades, like envy or jealousy, or these things that we don't want to combat, so we become more attached.
Yeah.
Right? And I feel like with Mercury and Fortuna coming back together, while that Eros Psyche is coming back together, while Jupiter is getting ready to retrograde back to be in Pisces in its home with Juno, his wife. The good part about this is there's definitely the clearing of any questions of what's working and what's not working. And this is also Saturn and Pluto that are finally direct and on their way to finally start separating. Of course, it's going to take a little time. I think it's interesting, though, that it's Char. I always call her Char.
Yeah, Char.
Char, who is in between that Saturn-Pluto in Aquarius, which she's already really cool and very open.
Yeah.
But then there's that whole openness of Aquariusness and coolness, too. But it's in square to her. Right?
Yeah.
Right? So that's where I feel the over-attaching thing is going to be the nemesis of this beginning of our eclipse season, with all the Libra transits of Sun, Venus, and then into Scorpio, which we did see in 2014. Just it was way more crazy because it was at 0. But this one's really odd to me because of the fact that it is squaring the point that happens to be almost the midpoint of the Saturn-Pluto, midpoint. And that in itself, too, means we're going to all be facing a really changing world that's going to leave an emotional mark on us all.
Yeah, an imprint.
Did you bring up the Fortuna square Pluto?
Oh, and no.
Because that is like interesting too, just because it was with that Mercury and now it's at this point. So, it's more of that, like, you're going to control fate with relationships right now? Good luck.
Yeah, and you guys were talking about Fortuna just like a month ago, remember? And it was that was like positive, I believe, alignment.
I think it is positive.
But like it's like, right. No, I mean, it's definitely a clearing. So anybody that's like, I mean, it'll make it very...
on the galactic center.
Oh, and so can I add something? Well, I guess it won't be with him, but so another 2 asteroids that I follow very closely because I have noticed that when they hit people's charts. So Karma and Pandora's box, are together, conjunct in Sag right now, and will be. So that's going to be interesting that they're together, Karma and Pandora's box in Sag. So, I mean, anybody that has Sag placements or that it crosses over, or...
Right, or the house, or the fact that Mars is also going to be stationing.
Right, it'll be opposite
of it, which to me, that's the crazy part of all this is, and Neptune, right? Like, so there's a big T-score building up.
Good old Neptune.
Right. And this is just the first eclipse, like, of the 2. And this one's already got a lot of... I think the cool stuff are the asteroids. That's the weird part.
Yeah, it's like it's the flavor. It's the sprinkles. It's but they're passionate ones that definitely add...
Which is fitting for an eclipse in Scorpio.
Totally. Absolutely.
Because there's false illusions that we can be overly passionate about. And then there's actual real things
obsessions,
that we can be extremely passionate and committed to and building and working towards that can have possibility. But gosh, it's a fine line trying to figure out what those things are right now, I think, at the same time.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that if I were to clear this, I just can do this one. There we go. If I were to kind of draw this out really quick in a cool way. So if you think about this solar eclipse is going to be happening October 25th, right? And then if you just kind of arc the energy of, we're going to see the sun and everything, we're going to see the lunar eclipse on November 8th, right? Mm-hmm. So then we're going to go into December, okay? This is all going to be while Mars is going to be retrograding. And this is all while here's Lucy going to be on the galactic center. And on,
oh my God.
Right? Okay.
How exciting.
And so this is where Mars in retrograde will be the opposite of where this stuff's going, right? is going to be heading back towards Aldebaran, right? Archangel Michael, for the biggest battle, right?
Absolutely.
Like this is the biggest battle of light and dark that's building up in the war. It's not the Ukraine and the World War
right, the spiritual
3 or World War 33.
right.
But that is happening, but it's this biggest spiritual war is already commenced, but this is where the biggest battles of that biggest spiritual war begin. And I feel like the biggest thing for people to prepare for is that, especially with Jupiter at the 0 point of Aries during this, that's in quincunx to this. Well, it is interesting that Isis is going to be in sextile to this one in Virgo. Again,
the mother of
So
magic,
much of this
healing.
is around our beliefs.
Yeah.
Right? With Jupiter in quincunx and Lucifer in Sag at the galactic center.
God, I can't believe that.
And Saturn even square Uranus.
Right.
Like, it's just such a time of like, gosh, you have to we've had to reprogram so many different levels of our beliefs, our passions, what we're doing.
Shedding.
And it's like, if you didn't go ahead and take the graduation to the next step, like you're holding yourself back from something at the same time that can be really,
well, and
positive.
Juno with that bad boy, with the abuser.
right, with Nemesis. Yeah.
Like, it's like, oh my gosh, the abuser with Juno and then Jupiter is going to get
Jupiter's
up in the
going to
mix.
come back, just days after.
It's just so crazy that they're so, it's like so,
it's a ballet.
absolutely.
Although it's like the movie Black Swan ballet, like where
Yes.
she starts
yes.
growing
Going-
her fucking weird stuff and starts
Like the
scratching
psychosis
and,
is hitting like
is hitting.
slowly at
Which
every
that's where
level.
the nemesis is psychotic partners
Yeah.
or people who have psychological mental health issues. That's really
Yeah.
where you're gonna have to pay attention.
Well, and mental health just in general. Obviously,
Right.
but yeah,
That's a big one right
But
now.
relationships play such a big part into that. You know what I mean? If you're
Yes.
not
They really do.
grounded, and it'll really, yeah.
I think it's going to look like we're losing the war at this period. But that's the whole thing of the good thing is Mars is, it's divine that Mars is going to retrograde
Right.
in Gemini for the first time in its whole sign of Gemini since 1943, during
Yeah.
World War II, into 44, to come back to Aldebaran, which is the military commander of God, and that
Yeah.
Mars is going to be with the light and be with the heavens, and the North Node is with the heavens, and Uranus is with the heavens.
Yeah.
That it really is this zone in your chart or this zone that we have to really pay attention to as our saving grace.
Yeah.
Everything else, I feel like the nemesis or the energy of Pisces is really whether or not you see that beautiful spiritual understanding or you're lost in the sauce and you're kind of caught up into these darker realms of like, well, it's so dark, I'm just going to go to that club tonight and I'm going to do that. And there might not even be clubs. Right, like going on at this time, like like it might be that
There'd be an
crazy.
underground club.
Like underground clubs, or this is where instead of facing the responsibility of valuing people, no matter how much you like them or not, you
Yeah.
still have to have you still have to value people, and you still
Right.
have to, I think it's about class. North Node and Taurus is about class to me, right? It's like about the way that it reminds me of an Englishman in New York from Sting, like. It's like, I like my toast burnt on one side. It's how you walk down the street. It's how your shoes clack on the street, how you open a door. I feel like this is the energy where you hold your class extremely. Because if you don't, you can get caught up really quick into the craziest places.
Oh yeah. 100%. And it's like Gemini is mental and Mars is, like all of that's so good, but it's like people not getting too, just like caught up in their mind,
And
obviously.
I think the ones that are able to see through these things with Mars retrograding in
Yeah.
Gemini, it's clearing our mind and then
Right.
coming back to Archangel Michael there, the military
Absolutely.
commander. It's like
Right.
getting the new marching orders from the military commander of God of like how to understand your environment and
Yeah.
to make things happen and to quickly act on life
Right.
from a very divine place. So,
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and I think it's about commitments with that notion, but also on the ground with people that have that understanding and that same emotional commitment. Because I feel that even though Venus is being obliterated.
Yeah.
The Scorpio energy itself, though, I feel that with the South Node, kind of softens the blow. K2 and Venus, K2 loves the benefics, right?
Yeah.
So this one actually is where you can actually, transform through commitments that understand all these higher realms and understand these heavenly realms that are happening, especially with the North Node and Uranus, and are willing to commit to those higher purposes and to that higher mission that is really based upon truth, which this is going to be also with Jupiter and Neptune coming closer. The propaganda is going to be extreme, and the propaganda or the projections we create in ourselves or other people create on us that we choose to accept or that we choose to follow or that we choose to not set our boundaries with. Because I feel like this is where, I don't think that we have to be so hardcore about setting boundaries. It's just about setting boundaries and then moving back into the good shit, not making it such a big ordeal. Like, I can't believe they did that to me. And I can't, right? Like that's, I think the danger zone is when you get lost in the sauce of, I have to be extreme boundary.
I will never get betrayed or abandoned or hurt like that again.
Yeah.
That's the scary part to me is that place.
Yeah. And then how people just like shut down completely. Right. I mean, I feel like we've all had a lot of, anybody that's been doing this work, and even if they haven't jumped off the cliff fully, but like, even if it's just been like, baby steps, it's like, at least if you're doing that, it's like, you just have to, I can't stress that enough. I mean, trust me, it's the hardest shit I ever had to do. And it took a long time. Like, it really did. But then it's like, you're just like, fuck it. And you just, cause you just have to do it. And but it changes, it puts you on a path. It really does. Whatever that path is. It's like you've said, it's like the divine will, they got you. Like, but if you're staying in that job, if you're staying in that relationship, if you're just staying in all this shit, like, you can't be half in. You really, and that, it's, I guess, scary, but it's so Uranus, it's so fucking liberating. Mm-hmm. Like once you do it, but you got to rip it off. You just got to jump.
So this was the one in 2014, Sun, Moon, Venus, Scorpio, solar eclipse. I'll never forget that one. And this one was with North Node Libra, Fortuna in Libra too. But it's like interesting kind of like looking around. It was Psyche in Aquarius at that time with Nemesis.
Oh.
But Juno at that time was in Leo. And so everything's all kind of like cluster fucked around, and that was South Node Uranus. Now we're in a North Node Uranus. Right. So I remember that was the most deep alone feeling in my life. Of course, for me, it squared my sun exactly, but it was a moment I remember just feeling overall, talking to others, doing astrology at that time. People were very feeling alone. It was really hard to, because even in the astrology community, that was Jeff Jower. He had done a reading for me on that Halloween, and then he passed right at the beginning of 2015. There was a lot of harder with Saturn, especially being in Scorpio at that time. There was very intense transformations that were difficult. There was also Jupiter in Leo that was squaring Saturn. Whereas right now, I feel like, there's all these crazy transits, but I feel like that one definitely was a lot harder. Especially that South Node Uranus energy. It's almost like wanting to have a different environment in the relationships and all that, North Node and Libra, but it was South Node and Aries, and it was easier to kind of get caught up on Tinder or caught up on your own thing and disconnect in your own way, but not realize it and kind of and that was Uranus Pluto square too, which is coming back.
Is that, oh, look at, now I know where my Chiron was. It was in 2014 on my Venus. We were talking about that earlier. So 2014, was definitely a fucking year.
And that was the same year that Venus was in Capricorn in retrograde when we started it, and it came direct, just like this year.
Like, oh, okay.
So we're in the same Venus 8 year of Capricorn, 2014, 2022.
I got divorced that year.
Yeah, 20.
I was on Pornhub and myfreecams.com watching that with my Saturn return and Scorpio.
Yeah, 'cause I was just going to say, wasn't
My girlfriend
Saturn
was
and
the
Scorpio?
computer.
Yeah.
And I realized porn was not helping me out.
Right.
It was very lonely.
Yeah.
So if you're stuck on porn, this would be a horrible time.
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
Especially with all the Taurus energy that we're having
Right.
too. Like, I think physical life is very, very, very appealing to
Right.
people right now.
Oh, absolutely.
But
Physical connection.
I've been through lots of eclipses over a decade of doing a video every day and every week and all this shit, right? This was the one I felt the most. And I remember as a collective, people and the readings I was doing at that time and the comments, you'd probably look on YouTube for the October 23rd, 2014 eclipse and read the comments of other people.
Like, was this time almost hard to like give people hope because it was so dark?
Yes, especially because it was on the other side. So the eclipses that were on the other side in the spring were in Libra and Aries with Pluto-Uranus squaring.
Right.
Right, so they were on that. And how we're now going to be dealing with our next lunar eclipse that'll be 2 weeks after the one that we're about to have, which is square Saturn with Uranus, right? So it's Saturn-Uranus square. So it's very relatable, 2014. And then if you think of the Ukraine situation, right? Ukraine and the weird shit that happened with Russia, same shit. It's all happening now. It's like, this is where astrology can help people so much.
Right.
But there's an opposite to it all at the same time. Like, you're not obviously getting divorced this year, Brian.
Right.
Nope.
Right.
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 You know what I mean? Like, I'm obviously not sitting in front of a computer on Pornhub.
Right.
Like, you know, so I feel like we all can kind of look at the opposition of the nodes. But again, those were nodes in different signs. So that doesn't make that eclipse as strong, but it was the same buildup of Sun Venus combusting. And
Venus was still the ruler of the North Node, for what it's worth.
That's very, very, very good point.
It has that in common.
But I think that one made it harder because it was a much more Libra, Venus related, relationship based stuff, where this Taurus is more about actually having it, where that was like, I remember trying to date in 2014 was fucking insane. I remember dating a girl, I'll never forget this shit. I dated some chick that I met and she was fucking hot. She was hot. And I thought she was super dope. But she like had a boyfriend, but like was like, yeah, he's not around a lot. And I remember just kind of being like, fuck. There was a lot of girls I met that like, there's this other dude.
And
like,
what, they didn't want to cut it loose?
Yeah, because it was like how they, in Hollywood, right? That's how their
Right.
apartment was getting paid for or
So
whatever.
it's all materialistic shit.
It was very, it was like attachments to stay until I get to my big thing, which none of them did.
Right. I was like, they're obviously not in there.
Right. Like,
Yeah.
And that's where maybe there could be that over attachment to things, even though that was a Libra North Node. But Brian pointed out it was the dispositor for the North Node Venus, and it was in the same eclipse.
Interesting.
Right. That's fucking gnarly. You know,
Connecting. You're a divine decoder.
Oh, I don't know. Just jumped out. It's just like, wow. What are the odds that Venus would be the dispositor of the North Node in that eclipse too? Different sign, but still Venus.
So
ruling.
after all of this craziness and we make it to March, is March good or no?
That's Pluto's ingress into Aquarius, and
Oh, right.
Mars
that's why,
is done with its
it's into
retrograde and coming
Aquarius.
out of Gemini.
Oh, that's right. I know. I can't believe it's retrograde that long.
It's just a big shift. Like there's a lot of changes that we're gearing up for. Like we're in it, and then it's like next year is like it's full on ready. You know, kind of like here's the new future, It's not the Jetsons. Sorry,
Right.
you were promised
Oh.
something that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
You know?
And
Yeah.
it's going to be, if you think Jupiter Neptune's confusing, Saturn Neptune in Pisces,
Right.
Right.
is, well, Saturn's going to lose. That's the best part about it, I feel, but also the underbelly that's going to be scary for people is that Saturn is going to lose. Saturn's had 7 years almost of power here, right? Close, like 5, right?
Yeah.
And now it's coming into Pisces and Neptune's there
Right.
to dissolve. And there are no boundaries in Pisces.
Right.
So Saturn coming into Pisces, Pluto coming into Aquarius. This is not where Saturn's going to be happy. Saturn's going to be like, what the fuck? And so the structures and the systems and the planning and the ideas of like where you think you're going to go are only going to be that are spiritual, period. Or anything that's false and not in alignment spiritually or kind of caught up in these propaganda places that Jupiter and Neptune brought us are going to really come down with a vengeance in a hard way. And Pluto and Aquarius, for its first ingress, is definitely going to destabilize the world in an extreme way. So it's going to be the most, there was no way for anybody to predict what the world will look like.
Yeah.
Right. And it's going to not be what we all thought it would be, period, like Brian just said.
Yeah.
And I feel that at the same token, too, it's also then Mars coming into Cancer, right? There's going to be a lot of this like, wah, wah.
Gemini is such a weird sign for Mars to be in just because it comes from detriment and goes straight into fall. And then we got a
Right.
retrograde in between. So Mars has just been in a...
So Mars will be in Cancer and Saturn doesn't like to be in Pisces. So it well, if anything, it's going to be like,
The malefics are going to be having a hard
like,
time.
yeah.
Which they've been pretty strong, you know, if you think about it.
yeah,
Especially
absolutely.
Saturn. God, I'm so ready for Saturn
my
to not
God.
have control.
I know.
And to kind of like let some of these things finally dissolve. I think that's going to be the biggest thing, like you were mentioning, is
It's just like a
this
little
is where
break.
like they're holding up by their last string with Saturn having power
Yeah.
and really like rulership over our astrology, and then it's going to lose that. And like it's about time. Like I think, you know, most of the collective that is awake is like ready
Yeah. Well, I
to
just need a
watch
little
some of
break.
this stuff really dilute and dissolve and go.
I know. It's like we shouldn't be saying that, but I mean, it's been, I know, right? It's almost like we want to be, but we know that it's only really a Band-Aid.
I think if we're on spiritual daddy, I'll be Saturn daddy for a second.
Yes.
Especially mine's in Scorpio.
Saturn Daddy Scorpio. Yeah.
Okay. When the lunar eclipse square Saturn in Aquarius, 2 weeks prior to the solar eclipse, that's going to be the biggest gut punch, like, for Saturn. What the fuck? Oh, and when Saturn now is direct looking ahead, like, oh, fuck. I'm imagining the spiritual community right now, people, and then I'm thinking of just the world, then I'm thinking of liberals, and I'm even thinking of Republicans, and I'm just thinking of Europeans, and I'm thinking of all these people that are in these structures. When girls can't go get their eyelashes, when guys can't get the gasoline they want, when our cards aren't working, when the water has rust in it and is not hot, when it all starts falling, I don't think it's going to be what people expect at the first part of it. It will be like living in a fourth world country around the world when the systems break apart in the beginnings of it with Pluto and Aquarius and with Saturn and Neptune conjuncting. And it's going to be when the mail's not coming,
Oh, God.
when there is no unemployment, when there is no government program, when the police don't pick up the phone.
It's going to be a purge anarchy.
I mean, it's definitely, there's going to be a lot of anarchy, a lot of looting.
Oh,
There's a lot of stuff to like definitely raise an eyebrow to and consider
Yeah.
and think about just what you would do in a situation, how you
And
would
food.
survive.
Yeah.
If,
food.
if
Right,
everything
right.
in the structure didn't exist, could you still survive? That's a fucking question.
I mean,
know?
that's Saturn's like that's Saturn's weird manipulative like way of like being like, you sure?
Right.
You sure you don't want me around, motherfuckers?
You don't want me in Capricorn or
You
Aquarius.
don't want me? You don't want structure? Okay.
Right? You think you can do it without my rule?
Yeah.
Here you go.
Right. Here you go. And I feel that that's going to be the tipping point for people. I mean, think of like how, gosh, because, you know, I guess we live in the most first world place, right?
Right.
And especially here in California where we're paying $7 for gas right now, right?
First world problems.
First world problems, right? But like the way that I see, like, especially, and I don't want to pick on women or anybody, but like when I'm thinking of women when they go to the grocery store and it's like, I have that product at only Whole Foods, or I have to go to Mother's Market, or I have that.
Gluten-free.
Like, it's just going to be like, can you handle this half frozen TV dinner that happened to be still frozen that we can microwave from a generator really quick so you don't continue to sit here in the corner and starve? No. Like, you know, like it's that, and especially in Pisces, you have to remember the asylum energy is going to be, it reminds me of Batman when, you know, like especially Batman Begins when Scarecrow takes over and starts doing the fucking, fucking crazy fucking psychotic spray on people. And then all the people who are going to hate the system so much and don't know how to deal with it because they hate it, they're going to be like in the streets like, yes. And people who are, oh, I've got this and I pay this bill and I pick up the kids at school and all of that is going to have its first break, like not working. Like, think of the Postal Service. They've been trying to fix that thing. When that falls and then Amazon doesn't work here and then the stock tanks and then Amazon goes belly out of nowhere and then all warehouses are raided by people the second that happens.
Oh, God.
Like, you got to start thinking of like, these are the things that are coming.
Yeah. God. They won't be able to get their food delivery service.
Right. So like, or all the COVID people are going to, you know, like people are going to be running around with no masks on. Right. And they're going to be like, but they all have HIV. You know, or they can't go get a test. They can't go get a test at CVS. Like, you know, or CVS runs out of medication, or Walgreens or your local pharmacy.
Oh, God.
Like that's going to be the hard part because medicine is ruled by Virgo. So the opposition, we're already seeing it right now.
Right.
There's shortages on so many different meds. So think about the medication to keep the sanity is going to be gone. Then people are going to turn to alternatives, which is where fentanyl is. Why do you think the fentanyl has been brought in for so long? It's another depopulation agenda. Mm-hmm. People are going to be like, oh, it's in marijuana now.
Which is very Neptune and Pisces.
Right.
Oh, it's very South Node Scorpio too.
Yeah. And so I feel that's my daddy Saturn Scorpio, who's not afraid to look at the edge of the cliff and go, and seeing where I'm already preparing for my next 5-year shit. And it's like, fuck. People are going to be like, I rose through the darkness into what? That's going to be what I'm going to answer. But that's what people have to start looking at it that way. There will be the system coming back online in places with Pluto retrograding back into Capricorn. And some repairs that make people, again, like right now, feel like, it's all okay. The economy's still fine. Like, right?
Who thinks that?
A lot of people.
Funny you say that.
A lot of people do, though. A lot of people do.
That's,
A lot of people think it's all going to just be normal.
Right.
When it hasn't been. If you really think of where, like you study the economy, it's been the biggest false economy of all time. They're going to have to reset it some sort of way. And or the way that they're using the military and saying like, we're so weak, but yet we're coming out with like the most craziest technology to start releasing to the public finally. That's all a propaganda game. The same way that the propaganda is that digital currency is going to take our lives over and guess what? That means it's not.
Right.
They're going to probably be moving to physical assets. And people are going to be bartering. That's what Uranus and Taurus at the 20th degree when it gets to the third decan is about bartering.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to take out all our cash and get a save.
I mean, it's more about what you have.
Oh, right. Asset. Right.
Like how I could be like, hey, I've got this night. I know you want a night in your little tent fort world you created out of that apartment complex. I really need
right.
Like for somebody, maybe they need medication that somebody has.
And somebody will have
who
a
looted
stockpile.
every
Exactly.
Walgreens and
Exactly.
already there'll be people who will know this and already have all the vans and already do that and be the big, like it'll be some fucking gang unit that's fucking hung up in an apartment complex and you'll be like, shit, I got to go there with something they need, and they'll have a list. Like it won't be Craigslist no more. It'll be like gang list, right? And it'll be like, yo, somebody's got a DJ gear, right? That we need,
Right.
but we got all the meds. And then there'll be people with all like the sound equipment, and it's gonna be like that one day. I'm not saying it's gonna happen immediately, but it's definitely the beginnings of people have to start. And people are saying this is depressing, and that means it's because you're caught up in the system.
Right.
That you let it get to you that deep.
I mean, when they do make movies like The Purge and stuff like that, I feel like there's a
it reminds me of a
reason.
video game.
I feel like, right.
There's a really popular video game now. It's called Escape from Tarkov. And I like playing it. It's on PC, but it's like, that's what kind of like they channeled like the future in some way with that game a little bit, because it is all based around going in and like there was a big war and you go in and you loot these places, and then so you get these goods from and you get out, and then to get like stuff from the traders, it's not money. Like, yeah, you can buy some stuff for money, but a lot of it's what'd you get from that raid? What'd you loot? What do you got? Do you have that WD-40? Did you pick it? Like all the like random shit that people need for their
everyday,
and then that's
like,
how you would get something
yeah.
you want. And it's like that bartering system. And like, yeah, some people will take cash still. Maybe it'll still have value, or silver or gold, but it is going to be like the physical substance of what holds value in whatever this looks like. And we won't even know what that is, I think, until we get there, which
that's so
adds to the, what do you hoard right now? You know, what's essential? That's a fun word these days,
I
too.
think to give people some clarity, to make them understand on a much larger macro scale, is you have all the big planets at the end of the zodiac.
Right. Yeah.
Right? The last quadrant. Most people forget about quadrants. So if you take the last quadrant, which is, of course, the 12th, 11th, and 10th house, or Pisces, Aquarius, and Capricorn, when you have Pluto and you have Saturn and you have Neptune, and you have all these bunching ups happening in these signs, it's the end.
Yeah.
It's not the end of the world. It's the end of the world that we know.
Right.
Exactly.
Right? So this has happened many times in history, and it's going to happen again. But there's the weird in between that our history shows us, but many people just go to school and then that's it, and then they don't look at it, and they don't realize that there'll still be a caste system. There'll still be an elite that are trading with like money and gold and stuff.
Probably
and having
digital.
their little life and digital. And
Yeah.
they'll have the access. They'll have the wires that connect in the satellite systems and that stuff. But like, you know, then there's, you know, that's where humanity is going to feel the uniqueness of what it really is. The idea that we're all the same only comes from the idea that we're individuals in a similar vessel, that we all have a similar vessel, but we all are different souls, and we all have different contracts, and we all have different timelines, and there is no utopia.
Mm-hmm.
The utopia is the more that we accept what we are,
Right.
opposed to how we set it to be.
Yeah. It's a very dualistic reality. And there's just there can be that sort of utopian moments in life, but there's always going to be the opposite where things aren't.
Oh, of course.
It's not like, shit ain't like that, you know.
Right.
Sorry, like it's
God,
a hard
I learned
one.
so much tonight, you guys.
I was just going to say, if you think about all the major corporations, and because it's Capricorn and that big January 12th transit, right, of 2020 is the big blow up of all that. Think of how small business for pharmacies, very hard to find a small pharmacy anymore. Photo places, right? Only at pharmacies and stuff. Clothing.
Right.
Right? Like, yeah, online, but usually out of a little warehouse or somebody's house usually now, or their garage. And they're doing a great job on Etsy or a great job on Instagram, making it look really good. That people don't realize that it's these massive corporations that hold all the way that we are getting the stuff that we need. So when you look at the stock market, you look at the world economy, you look at these things that fall apart, and you also look at the trade deals and countries switching sides. I mean, this Ukraine war, the second NATO starts breaking apart and countries start leaving the EU, and the second all these things start happening, what's going to happen to the global economy? And corporations aren't going to be able to have the money, and then the Fed can't print the debt and sell any more bonds or debt, and they're going to try crazy things. And then what's going to happen? They fall apart. Then there's no local places that have all these things that we've given it all away, which is why liberalism and the weird neo-libs and the neo-conservatives have purposely created this shit to where that they'll keep their like loots and stuff in their ways, which they already did. Like the biggest power grab was 2020. It already happened. All those CEOs who quit in 2019 right before and cashed out at the top of the market, because actually that market is higher than it is right now. We already lost all the gains from right before the pandemic that were coming down below the high when Trump was president in March of 2020. Like that high of 29,000 was like fucking that was crazy. Now we're seeing 28. Now people are not already paying attention to that was all false, right? And they got they did sell at the high.
Yeah, they're watching everybody else. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's the crazy part. That's why you see like the Bezoses get out when they got out, and you're seeing these big moves from CEOs of corporations. Like they're not idiots. Like, you know, like the big dogs are the ones that triggered and said, okay, enough's enough of that.
Right.
And then there's people that are like, nope, look, history, like the stock market always goes up. It's my 401k. My grandpa told me to just invest and hold on. That world changed.
I mean, they're going to do bank buy-ins, not bail-out, or bail-ins, not bail-outs.
Right.
They're going to shut the banks down for 8 days like they did. And when they shut the bank, that's happened in our own history less than 100 years ago. And that's what was the panic. So, and if you look at that time period, which is really crazy, of 31, right? Like, just think about this. We've seen this before. Like, it's not like this hasn't happened before, right? Like, here we go. That's North Node Aries coming up, right? Mm-hmm. Chiron Taurus, Pluto in Cancer, you know, and these like kind of accesses. But here's Neptune here in Virgo.
Old Saturn in Capricorn.
Right?
Yeah,
and then
right.
there's Saturn in Capricorn and right, all these kind of, look at, there's Mars in Sag. It's like I just randomly picked November 8th, 31, right? That's fucking crazy. That's the January 12th, 2020 Mars.
6 degrees.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, that's Uranus and Aries, North Node. Right? And for people that might not, you know, maybe believe the whole show, right? Because there's a lot of people who don't. Ironically enough, like, it's kind of crazy. Like, here we go. Here. The banking panics of 1930 to 31, right? So remember, they closed the banks. This is what Miracle on 34th Street was all about. right? Like you could not get your money, right? Stands on a narrow ledge outside the building and declares to the crowd that the institution was sound, trying to make sure that their money's okay. Hey, your money's okay, right?
But we can't give it to you.
But in
But
the
it's
fall of
safe with us.
1930, the economy appeared poised for recovery, like they're saying right now. The previous three contractions, which we just have hit, these contractions, worse ones actually, which is kind of weird. The downturn that began in the summer of 29 had lasted for 15 months. There was a recovery, right? But when the crisis began, over 8,000 commercial banks belonged to the Federal Reserve System, but nearly 16,000 did not. That's where the movie In Miracle at 34th Street, he owns his own private bank. So he is ready to commit suicide in that movie during Christmas, right? Because there's no more money left and all of his people need the money and they're trying to close it and they're all, remember, I don't know if you've ever seen the movie, but it's
It's so long ago though.
Oh, it's a great. People
I
need to
actually haven't seen it.
People need to watch that movie.
I have.
Operating in an environment similar to what existed before the Federal Reserve was established in 1914. So they were still kind of in that old banking system. We are not in that banking system anymore. One cause was the practice of counting checks in the process of collection of parts of banks' cash reserves. These floating checks were counted in the reserves of two banks. The one with the check was deposited and the one with which the check was drawn. In reality, however, the cash resided in only one bank. Bankers at the time referred to the reserves composed of float as fictitious reserves. This is exactly what we're doing with Federal Reserve notes today, right? That there's no money in the bank, right? It's just a number in a computer system, right? Like there actually is not, there's no reserve that's holding it except the bond market and assets that the Fed has that they're quantitative easing and that they're selling off to try and get money. It's all a debt fucking crazy scheme, right? But you have to remember that during that period was when we saw the banks close, right? So panic began to subside in early December when the fourth largest bank in New York City, the Bank of United States, ceased operations. The Federal Reserve reaction to the crisis varied across districts. When negotiations broke down, the event like the collapse of Caldwell, right? So the crisis also hit the 8th district, outcomes and the banking crisis began. So look at this. This is what I'm seeing,
Yeah.
right? Most people don't even go to their bank anymore.
Right. They like deposit everything.
And that
on their
little piece
phone
of
and
plastic
all that.
doesn't work.
Like you're gonna be on your iPhone and be like,
Yeah.
"Where's my money on the chat?" with the Indian fucking person
AI
that's the,
robot.
right? Like like, "Where's my money?"
Be like, I'm checked
I
out.
don't know where it's at, right? And I
There
mean,
is
with
no
these
more
eclipses, with Venus being with the south, the south
Yeah.
node, with being
Right.
with the sun, and
The financials
and
are
this,
huge.
right? And then of course the lunar eclipse in Taurus, squaring Saturn in Aquarius,
With Uranus.
with Mercury in conjunct to inferior conjunction to the sun, like in Scorpio, right? And then so what happened was like the crisis also generated deflation because they were convinced bankers to accumulate reserves, right? So deflation harmed the economy in many ways. This is what we're about to go through is deflation. Forced bank firms and debtors into bankruptcy, distorted economic decision-making, reduced consumption, and increased unemployment. The gold standard transmitted deflation to other institution or industrial nations, which contributed to the financial crisis. So the deflation ended with the bank holiday of 1933. This is what happened. These included the suspension of the gold standard and the reflation of prices discussed in essays of the gold program and the Gold Reserve Act of 34, as well as the reform of financial regulation, creation of deposit insurance, and recapitulation of commercial banks discussed in essays. So the bank holiday, that's not a holiday to celebrate, right? All banking transactions were suspended in an effort to stem bank failures and ultimately restore confidence in the financial system for an entire week.
I don't know, man. Sounds like another drinking holiday to me.
1933. What a year.
And
We're right there.
people don't believe it though.
Right. Well, this is why you like link it back with
Especially
history
2023?
and the
90
right.
years later,
Yeah.
March is when Pluto comes into Aquarius. Saturn
Yeah,
comes
that
into
is
Pisces in like March 31st, April 1st, somewhere in there, right? It's like this is what's coming up,
Yeah.
right? So when you have over a week, it was 8 days. So they say a week, and it was the new president, Roosevelt, who did this. So it's like they set it up for a new president. Could you see Kamala Harris?
No.
You think it's going to be calm when Vice President, now President Kamala Harris shows up there with her full moon at 27 Aries and her sun at 27 Libra, where this sun Venus is dead, going to be making their inferior conjunction on her sun on her birthday, right?
With Pluto square.
With Pluto
Happy
square.
birthday.
Happy birthday. And having her get up there and be like, so like the banks are going to be like closed. And equity, so if you're white, you can't go to the bank.
Especially if you're a white male, and
Like-
absolutely no Republicans.
Right, exactly.
Right.
And this is also when they took people's gold, right? Like
Right.
you had to actually give your gold. But this is where they've got it set to where they're going to take 38% of whatever's in your bank account and reallocate it to save the system.
So we need to have gold bars. Gold bars.
Silver.
Barter gold bars.
I mean, if you have gold bars, you have to have a responsibility to make sure that they stay safe.
Right.
And you don't want other people to know. Or I've been
Is
saying, I
everything
think Bitcoin
safe?
like will be one of the things, but you'll have to really be good with knowing how to put it off the exchanges, keep it off the exchanges and cold storage, and make sure that it's safe from having any radiation from any of the crazy shit they're going to do. Because think about it, it's like it's all going to be happening at once. Like solar flares are starting to peak. 2025 is the year of the peak.
War.
But we're already seeing more war, like all these things. So relationships are going to be extremely important.
Yeah.
Yeah, they really are.
And if anything,
Yeah.
the level playing ground is going to be the vulnerability of just being in a good relationship, not about what you have money wise or anything, because that's not going to matter soon,
The support.
right?
Yeah.
And they're not going to be able to save it like they saved it here to keep this going, because the Federal Reserve is not part of. It's a private bank that we have a charter that our government of the people have a charter with them. So we have like a contract with this private banking institution that has like 23 private banks, and then they create the notes and they create, which now is debt based since 71, and it was already bad then. And then we told everybody after World War II, we'll take all your gold to all the countries in Europe, and then we'll resell it to you at $35 an ounce, right? And that's what all the countries in 2018, 2019 did, was buy all their gold back. And then the main international banks fucking put gold as the number one, not the dollar, as the currency of reserve. They all knew. That's what's really crazy. So, and it's gonna affect the EU and the UK the worst if you look at what's happening with their currencies, or Canada or Australia. America has the military-industrial complex. America has their bonds right now and people buying our treasuries like crazy. That's why the dollar's really high. But they also might pull all out at the same time to make their money back. And then that's when it gets weird. But then they also don't, like the bank, Deutsche Bank is almost about to go down, and one of the biggest Swiss banks right now is almost going to go default. That was this weekend. So, and there's no gas. But people don't believe this. Like they actually, I've told this story to a lot of like normies, and they actually don't believe it. Like, no.
That it's going to happen.
And that it's FDIC insured.
Oh,
It's where those beliefs are going to bite people.
right.
Right.
Totally. With Pluto.
And I mean, this is actually on
Lucifer.
federalreservehistory.org. It's not like on some fucking...
Right. I mean, this happened. This is real.
And really, we'll just kind of finish. I want to look at that March of 33, right? That's fucking crazy.
When Pluto enters Aquarius.
Yeah.
Right? Saturn in Aquarius. Look at that. North Node Pisces. Oh yeah, Uranus in Aries still, and that was the Pluto in Cancer. That was the Uranus-Pluto square, and we're coming back into Uranus-Pluto square with Pluto coming into Aquarius in March. And South Node with Mars retrograde in Virgo, with Jupiter-Neptune. See another Jupiter-Neptune. We're in a Jupiter in the opposite.
And Mars is in the mix.
Right.
And Mars is in the mix now
Right.
too.
Mm-hmm.
Square though.
So this possibility is extremely highly likely in the next 2 months.
Yeah.
Oh, and I would say, the eclipses and all that. I mean,
Like extreme. I mean, the same Jupiter, Neptune retrograde in the opposite sign, while at the same time it's a Mars retrograde in a Mercury ruled sign, and it's a Pluto Uranus square, and we're in a Saturn Uranus square, and that's also Saturn. Saturn's kind of making that was kind of a chill Saturn, but that also is the weird time that we are in Saturn Aquarius, right?
right. I was just.
And it's about to be
smacked.
smacked so hard, like so hard.
People's rose-colored lenses are going to be ripped off.
Yeah. There's a lot of disillusionment in our future.
Look at how what was it? Nemesis, right? Or
Nessus.
Nessus is with Uranus
Oh wow.
back then,
Yeah.
and now we're seeing it
With Neptune.
with Neptune.
Yeah.
But Jupiter, Neptune now in opposite, and yeah, that's pretty crazy. And North Node Uranus, and that was the buildup, right? Where all that stuff started collapsing. So, and this one's in Taurus, so
Yeah, those are almost at the same.
we're in a much more heightened
Degrees.
astrology
I would agree. And
Yeah.
which
than
means
that.
that was kind of small time,
Yeah.
which was crazy because that was pretty intense back then. But it's just another piece in the big puzzle that we're playing with right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the idea that they floated checks, right? Like it was
know.
like one bank had the check, but we'll just float the checks around, right? Like that's what they're doing now, but it's way crazier. I feel like it's even crazier. I'm like, they're just floating numbers on a computer.
It's like a lottery ticket. They're just generating out.
They can just print whatever
Right,
they
they can
want.
print whatever they
but
want.
somehow they need to hire all these IRS agents to come get some tax money because they don't have money. It's a very weird. The system's all fucked. It's so fucked.
Right, and
They're
they
all
base
agents.
that they're saying we're not in a recession because the job market's strong, but all the last 2 quarters have been in negative GDP. This is where it's getting to where, and then you're seeing crazy drops in the S&P 500 that happened during the 32, which caused the 33 issue, and 2008, and then you see the Bank of England doing exactly what we were doing during the recession and ruining their pound. That's why the euro went so high in the 2010s. Like, right, it was almost fucking $2 to our dollar. Like, it's crazy. So, now Europeans and everybody else are starting to feel that we felt, and so it'll be them that take us down, like we took them and the world economy down for a long time. And that's why Europeans over the 2010s had this whole like, we're so good and like America, it's so nice here. And da-da-da. Now it's the opposite. It's like,
Right.
if you want to talk about karma, right? Like,
Very true.
like,
And
oh God, I'm going to go live in France and, it's all so nice there. And da-da-da.
Oui.
Ooh, and it's
the
like,
south of France.
I'm gonna go on the beaches of Spain and I'm gonna go get a tan. Although
Where are they
Spain,
now?
is one of the lowest performing economies now. It used to be one of the great world giants of countries. Portugal, all that. Like it's 14th now in economy. It's horrible. Or Italy wants to leave the EU. That's what their new prime minister, who's a right wing. There's not been a right wing prime minister since you get into World War II, which wasn't a prime minister, it was a dictator, but still, we have not. Italy saying fuck this. So that's because the Vatican wants out. That's why the Vatican said, bring all the money in by September 30th, right? Then if you think about right after that, boom, new prime minister. She says we're gonna leave the EU. Fuck this shit. Just like Brexit. So everybody's starting to leave, and it's all the same countries as World War II. Russia, right? Well, USSR, Britain, America. Now you have Italy in the mix. Then you have Germany. What are they going to do? The Nord Stream blow up? That's based upon what goes to them. It's all. I can't even believe that people are that dumb and don't see it.
Well, I mean, it's kind of like the.
Leave us with something positive, Lauren. I'm putting
It's kind of
it on
like
you.
the jab. They didn't want to
Oh,
believe
they're
that
nice.
either.
Okay, that's the way to end it.
No, I just think that the positive thing would be like to not be, I don't know, in your shadow about it, or have your rose-colored, don't have your Pisces glasses on, coming from a Pisces. And manifest the fuck out of your best life. Start to learn the, the ways of bartering.
Yeah, you can be a good barter in life.
Yeah, I got a lot
There's
of good
just a
clothes
lot of ways
sell.
to be resourceful.
Yeah, well,
and I think that that's the thing is,
The
we're not going to
pandemic
be as
should have
limited
taught
as
you
we
that.
think we are. I think there's going to be ways and means to make things happen. It's just not what we were promised. And the more non-attached we can be to a lot of the stories that we were told growing up, the better off we'll be when it comes to creating the story of life we're living now. And I just feel like it's inevitably going to be a lot different. And that's okay. And we'll figure it out.
Yeah, find the right people. You keep saying,
tribe.
that is absolutely,
Community.
that's the positive. Find and actually connect with the right, your tribes, people, 100%.
Yeah, I mean, the tooth fairy we all realized isn't real.
The bedtime stories we were told.
That one broke me.
That
man.
one broke me. Santa isn't real.
Oh God, don't get me started.
Right.
Cried for weeks.
St. Patrick's Day, there are no 4-leaf clovers. And the more drunk you get, it's not lucky.
I never saw one leprechaun.
Or wearing green does not change shit.
I just
Right.
I just don't want to get
Valentine's Day is in Aquarius. It's the most unromantic day of the year.
Yes, that is
That's
true.
a hilarious one.
It's better with friends than it is trying to force
an
yourself to
Aquarius.
do Aquarian weird thing. We're gonna do love right now at a dinner, and I'm gonna bring you a heart that's not real, but a fake heart made of chocolates and all these weird things to celebrate my love to you. It's very alien, like you like love.
Here's
There
a
you
card
go.
and
Here's a
and a
card.
little sweetie with
Here's
a
that
message on it.
dinner. All these
Aquarius.
things.
So true.
It's very mechanical, right?
So
Aquarius
true.
kind of has that mechanical feel
Oh,
to
for
it.
sure.
Valentine's Day has this mechanical feel
Should have
to
been
it.
March 14th. Should have been in
Yeah,
Pisces.
it should have been in Pisces.
Yeah.
Usually because Venus will come exalted or something.
Right.
But
I've looked at the chart for St. Valentine's death before, and the chart's interesting. It had Venus in Pisces, and it had Mars somewhere in good aspect. I think it was Mars, Jupiter in Taurus, making a sextile to that Venus. There was something else that was positive. There was this value built into it of a tradition almost that was there, but it still has that weird Aquarian
Yeah.
do I have to do this, or
Right.
are you just kind of falling in line, which is one thing Aquarius can do too, is line up. Everybody line up. We all have to go single file here, and
God.
that's the dark side of Aquarius in my mind.
I was going to say that if you think of when Saturn comes direct, when we start approaching the end of the year, it will be at the midpoint of Pluto and Neptune's sextile. That's where Saturn's okay, I'm leaving, I'm separating from Pluto, but I'm entering into Neptune, and Jupiter's leaving Neptune, where it's I mean, I hate to be political, but the whole idea that people believe that everything's fine and you have Biden, who's the one who's telling you it's going to be fine, is the biggest propaganda of all time. Jupiter, I mean, the guy can't even talk. He fucking ghosts. He fucking right.
Is he a ghost?
Is he a ghost? Right. He's
The
Casper.
ghost of
I
Joe
called him
Biden.
Casper the ghost. Old,
Like-
old Casper. He's not young anymore. He looks like a ghost. So it's like that. Like Saturn. People are gonna feel with the Saturn direct that's coming up here on the 22nd and 23rd. Right. Then we come into the Sun Venus. Then we come into the Sun Venus solar eclipse. All of these stories and all of these things, the retrograde is, I hope people starting to see in Pisces with Neptune for the last time, to not fall for this propaganda again, because they're gonna put
Right.
it's like the worst. It's like like if you were to take the worst trailer park and take all the fucking sewage and all the shit and just dump it on somebody, and then going and finding like the cheapest like Walmart fragrance you can and fucking Febreze and pouring it on top of Biden, right? And give him his fifth shot of the new bio fucking update, right? And he's going to be touting out, it's all fine, the world's great, NATO, Ukraine, God. And people are going to be like, yes, and not smell that smell. And I don't know. I think they're doing the change out during this time to Kamala Harris with some other or VP, or maybe she doesn't become president and like Hillary gets in there, and Hillary becomes our president as a Scorpio. That's what I have a hunch on. And that's where, I mean, the shit smell is going to be so bad that I hope people really stop pooperying.
It already is foul. It
Yeah.
already is.
Air freshener's not going to fix that.
And so with Saturn then approaching Neptune, all those lies and all those fake propaganda things, Saturn at least is going to give a fight to Neptune and be like, well, this is reality, bitch. And Neptune's going to be like, well, it is messy. Ha ha ha. You know what I mean? Like, it is messy. Right.
They'll
So
probably
like,
laugh. They'll probably laugh together. They both have their sinister ways.
Right.
How messy you want to get? It's time to get really messy.
That's thinking of Saturn, Neptune. That was in Capricorn, right? Like in the 90s, like at the beginning of.
Tell me about it. I was
right?
born
Late
with
80s,
that
early
conjunction.
beginning of the 90s, and then, looking to now. That's the last Saturn, Neptune.
Stay woke, folks.
That people with Saturn, Neptune, like Brian.
Messy.
This will be a
messy.
very interesting transit for those. And I've called them out the most. I'm always like, oh God, Saturn. That's what I look at a chart, and I'm always like, for dating, I always was like, no, for a girl, like, I'm like, oh, you're trying to be the next big wig.
Oh.
Right. Like, okay.
It's an illusion.
In the rules, like Brian's lucky because he has his sun in Capricorn.
Right.
But like people who have that position are not a Capricorn, I'm always like, okay, I have the illusion that you have all the rules figured out, and they're always delusional rules,
Exactly.
right?
Right.
Like, it's like,
Yeah, that
oh,
would be
I
a
can't,
hard one.
I can't do that. I'm gonna do this, and this is the right way, and especially imagine Saturn and Neptune and Pisces.
When I really think about like all the people I grew up with and went to high school with that had that same transit going on, and I look at where their life's at right now, most of them, I'm like, yeah, that. All the delusional hopes and dreams of making it to the top of something that never existed.
No.
They climbed that mountain and got.
That's the whole
They
lesson.
think they got it until this time that we're in now, when it's like
Right.
Neptune and Saturn
Right.
are like, oh, about those that you thought was going to get you to the top and be there all along.
Yeah, it was never there.
No, and it's the trap, Saturn and Neptune and Pisces.
Yeah.
It's a Venus fly trap. Where you keep wearing your Ukraine fucking flag or emoji, and you get this other shot, and oh my God. like, I think enough people see it though now, but there's some who don't.
Let's hope.
I mean,
Yeah.
you know,
Pretty apparent.
I just want to say this to end is, you know, because I looked at my old Age of Deception in 2016, and it's crazy because I showed people how, you know, this guy Christ died in what we call 0 AD, right? And then 325 years later, it's like, okay, yeah, let's make this thing a religion. And it was just a guy who died, right? And then they give him this godly power, and it takes a while for it to come into gear. Astrology's still allowed until around 700 and into 800 AD is when the Catholic Church has enough money and power to finally be like, fuck the pagans. So all these spiritual Christians out there who are like, the dark magic and all this stuff and astrology and it's all like that. It's like they don't realize the fucking power grab it was. But see what has happened with George Floyd. So imagine 1,000 years from now and people that still push the George Floyd and the unfairness, and then 300 years from now, they create a religion to honor George Floyd, but because people still like the illusion or the power, like he's a god. And then 1,000 years from now, in 3,000, people are praising, and if you were to go into the future, you'd be like, wait, what? And people are like praying to George Floyd and the picture of George Floyd. That's Christianity.
Outstanding.
So, right? So, the religious reality is coming to its... I think the harshest reality is going to be religions. I've already predicted this, though, 6 years ago, but that's the age of deception, that the age of Pisces end is your religion was fake.
Just one more shattered reality.
The biggest shattered reality is your religion was fake. I'm not an atheist either, right? It's just that your religion is fake. It was not even close to true.
My Uranus in the 9th is like, I fucking told you guys. I always had a weird thing with religion my whole life. It's like, nah.
I mean, when they keep coming out and having to apologize for raping, pillaging, and killing people, I mean, you know, under the name of God, you know.
A way to
a lot of
control
scandals.
the
A lot of
masses.
scandals went through the church.
You know.
Still do.
And yeah, and I know that people, I've said that the hardest addiction, which will be all this Pisces, and I prepared people in the 2016 with South Node Neptune square Saturn and Sag, and so Saturn and Neptune are coming together. So that's the election of 2016. That's all these things coming up with the Saturn Neptune that's coming up. But I said the greatest addiction is religion. It's worse than heroin.
Yeah.
It's worse than fentanyl. And I see it in the chat. No, Jesus. And I can tell you, as a God person, as a God soul that I live, that you don't have to follow that way to have the most amazing life. Like the highest vibration is there. It's not through some individual. It's not through this only one route. That is the true inequality and the true inequity, if you want to use that term, of all time. Or that it's Allah, or that it's, you know, even Buddhism and all these things are all coming down. Because they all don't connect. They all don't coexist, as the sticker would say. And that's going to be the hardest thing for a lot of people. Mental health. They're going to be mental health people walking around fucking 30 years from now. I mean, like, Jesus is real. You know, like, you know, when the disclosure and all this stuff comes out, or no matter if we finally get access to the Vatican and we get to go to the real library and to the vaults underneath, and we see that the whole thing was manufactured, they still won't believe it.
Right.
Trump planted those.
Right. Or that in Muslim, you know, it's like they go around a fucking cube.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, the black.
Yeah, in Mecca, like they treat women like shit.
Yeah, I just watched.
They
something
fucking
on that.
don't respect And Catholicism doesn't respect women at all either. You're going to be a nun. And Buddhism really doesn't like women either. It's all monks up in the fucking thing. I don't see women in those fucking temples.
No.
So the inequality is religion. And that's what all this Pisces shit is. And if you see Biden, he's a Catholic.
My faith is holier
and you know
than yours.
when America almost gets destroyed by nuclear war? JFK Catholic, Joe Biden Catholic. So, gonna be really fun.
Hell yeah.
Can't wait for that Jupiter and
I
Pisces
know,
29.
you know what I mean? Like
That karmic degree.
the safest America ever was under a president who we knew was kind of bullshitting about fucking his whole Christianity, which was Trump. You know what I mean? Like, he was just saying it just to do it and like hold the Bible upside down, but we were actually the most safe. That's kind of crazy with no wars. Oh, that's kind of an interesting thing. I hope we have a president who isn't Christian, isn't Muslim, or isn't religious. I hope that happens. That's what's going to save the world. And they're going to think, and then they're going to call that the Antichrist.
Straight up.
Of course.
And what the funniest thing is, the Antichrist is going to be the most religious fucking person in the world. I'm already giving away my 20 fucking.
Give it away, give it away,
But
give it away now.
If people think my predictions of the last 5 years were crazy,
Ooh, good.
I know, he got the download
It's
this
like
weekend.
a special.
I did get
He
the
came in
download.
Sunday and I was here and he's like,
Oh,
yo,
good.
I got the download about what's coming on.
The download.
I got some
on
things
the
to do.
download.
I got some things to
I
do.
got and it was all by going back and re-looking at all the stuff I did and being like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. There we go. And then it just went Hypergate. I was like, and I warn people, I said, like, religion is the greatest addiction on the planet. And the end of Age of Pisces will be people falling into their fears and holding on to the most fake thing, like the Tooth Fairy story. I mean,
Right.
it's sad, but HighVibe is a place that doesn't judge off that either. It's all about having your own religious freedom. My family's based on that, from the Mayflower to being Quakers. But that's the whole point, is that if you lose yourself into that, it doesn't say in the Constitution or on dollar bills or anything, in Jesus we trust. It just says in God we trust. There is no, or in Lauren we trust.
My little crown. You know.
Well, it's great to have you on, Lauren.
It's been a pleasure sitting
Dropping
here
the
with
crown.
the king and the queen.
Dropping the crown.
Darn. I know. I learned so much and I had such an amazing time. So much fun. And so enlightening and just.
Is there any place people can find you?
Oh yeah, on my website, the Velour Hippie, the VELOURHIPPIE.
We'll definitely put that one in the
Yeah.
bottom link. But it was great to have you and to help
Yes.
bring some feminine energy to this show.
Thank
Because
you
Brian and I
for
have
having
been
me.
wanting to make changes to this show.
Yeah, I'll be a guest anytime. I had a lot. This was enlightening, fun, and I hope that people, wake up.
Yeah, this is great. Thanks for bringing the asteroids to the table too, because David and I are way more like, I don't know. I feel like the terms
Battle
like
of the
meat,
gods.
meat and potatoes
Right.
astrologers, like with the planets, which
Yeah.
it's nice to get that other layer, because the asteroids are important and they do play a part and they do come around and there are cycles and there's all these different ways, and it just is another facet that like shows how deep astrology goes.
Right.
And that not at one astrologer's going all the way with every bit of it. So there's just so much out there. And
Another
glad you brought
layer.
that. Yeah.
Yes, you're so welcome. Let's bring all the astrology, the dark, the light, all of it.
that's
I'm all about it.
that's the Hermetic way.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you
Hermetic
both being here.
Yes. Thank you.
Appreciate you as always.
It's kind of trippy that you guys are sitting here going through my schools.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
Yep.
totally. I was
fucking-
like, I gotta
really
watch
trippy.
Hypergate and the Monad, and oh my gosh, yeah, because it's like
It's just a mind blow.
I went.
It is very interesting.
Oh my
'Cause
gosh,
when I
it's
found
so
those classes,
good.
just to even think I'd be sitting here, it was
Right.
very interesting, kind of mind blow in itself. So yeah,
You
very.
guys all need
That's
to
really
come.
what the real high vibe shit is, and Jesus didn't do that.
Right.
No.
What was it? Gosh, it was the reason I was going to watch it. Well, I feel like, I don't know, watching one of the whole classes, but it was like I couldn't find the part where it's like you're either you need to be a tyrant to spirituality or you're a tyrant to God. Is that
You
what
need
it
to be a
was?
spiritual
Tyrant
tyrant,
to your
or you're a tyrant to spirituality.
Yes, I fucking love that. That's like my favorite. Was that John D?
John D.
Yeah, so amazing. So that's the part I was trying to find, and there
Did he
it
say
is.
that part, or did you say that based on his word?
Oh, I decoded
Yeah,
it.
you
Remember
said
they
that,
say
yeah.
it can't be decoded, but I decoded it.
Yeah, so true.
So Hypergate 2.0 I'm announcing at the end of this week.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
And it's going to be
that's-
2 days a week, 2 hours for 4 weeks instead of 1 day a week, 4 hours.
right. Yeah, break it up.
So it'll be a lot easier for people to be in it more and for me to be able to do it with my schedule.
Right.
And this one's turning anybody who's into astrology, because a lot of astrologers don't even know they're astrologers. They're good enough to be an astrologer, but it's about turning them into prophets, the Nostradamus
I
way,
love that. I
or the
love it.
Leo King way of making prophecies. And that in your own life, it's important to know that, how to do that, so you know what's happening and to prepare for yourself.
Absolutely.
And then teach people how I come up with all this. And using all the Hypergate stuff, which unless you've been through Hypergate, you wouldn't get it because it's my own astrology I created, but it's fucking crazy shit with ages and fucking.
Well, yeah, and just going back in time.
But I'm not going to be focused on John D. There will be some John D work that I've recently found, but it's definitely going to be playing with Nostradamus.
Good.
more.
You are the modern day Nostradamus.
And John D.
So-
Yes, for sure. And it's like you just hypergated the fuck out of that chart with, like, what was it that we were looking at? Just all the connecting the dots and Lucy and the galactic center. And like, I mean, you just hypergated the chart where you just drew all around it here. So,
Yeah, I don't look at charts. I just see it and then go.
Yeah.
There's no question.
and like you said, that people should just know in their head, like the sky, just looking up without looking at the charts. And, you know, that's like very important. So, yeah.
Which
So-
we all have the ability to do.
Totally.
Fast
Absolutely.
and quick. That's what those schools are all for.
Yeah.
But I hope people are ready to be prophets. We need more prophets.
Yes.
That's the problem. That's the religious fucking dark side, is they want you to only believe that one prophet was here and he's dead, and that you have to pray to that prophet,
Right.
and that's it, and give it to him, and don't, right? Like, without astrology, I don't even know. Brian knows from how many fucking letters or gifts or crazy things and stuff that people show that's mail here, and
Yeah, what you
thanks,
just
and
got today.
you saved my family,
Yes.
to blah blah blah, right? Like, Jesus did not do that, but a lot of astrologers did,
Right.
right?
Your own prophet.
Right. So that's where it's like, and what I notice is there's not a lot of astrologers who do prophetic astrology at all. Like, you go watch it and it's just like, here's your yearly astrology,
TikTok
and here's
astrology.
or TikTok astrology, which I don't have a problem with, but it's the
Right.
farthest away from
It's like
being a
bubblegum
prophet
astrology.
and actually like showing people how to be prophetic or remote view their chart in any timeline and know how to see what's going to happen. Like, it was already very easy to get people to start to like actually catch on to where I'm going with Saturn, Neptune, and all that shit. Like, to start thinking there is where you have to think when Saturn turns direct.
That's where it's going.
That's where it's going. Or Pluto into Aquarius at the same time. So it's like, oh shit.
It's powerful.
Like, yeah, and so, but how to go really far out, or how to make it to where you get to a prediction that echoes into the reality, like literally, where people are like, that's what he said, corporation prison camps, like, right? And that's what they've been building to try and hold the system together. Or a plague's coming, a new plague, and it will be about control of your freedom, not about the plague.
No.
Like, all those kind of things are easily taught, but I haven't taught them, so I'm going to teach them. So anyway.
Dope.
That was fun
Had
tonight.
such a great time. So fun.
All right, everyone. Well, thanks so much for being with us. Make sure that you join HighVibe. Just go down the links down below or on the app stores. And our new app is coming out. They told me just recently 5 weeks, but I got a feeling it'll be sooner. And I already submitted it 3 weeks ago, the last part. So there's a backlog in this Biden's America. So, but the app we have now is great. And our TV apps, of course, on Apple TV and Roku. So, or our website, which is badass. So, or on mobile, you can just do to highvibe.tv.
And go get all the classes.
Or yeah, or go to highvibetvschool.com
enlightened.
if you want to be ready for Hypergate 2. So
Study it.
2.0. All right, everyone.
Boom.
Thanks, Lauren. It was great having you here.
Yes, thank
Thanks,
you.
Brian, and we'll
Had
see
so
you
much
all.
fun.
Thank you.
We'll see you all on High Vibe.
Bye,
Adios.
guys.